Good evening and welcome to the Beaufort County Board of Education business meeting of April 4, 2023. The board has now just come out of executive session. We are now back in public session. And do we have any action as necessary or appropriate regarding matters discussed in executive session?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move we approve the superintendent's recommendations for employment listed on the March 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2023 personnel ratification report.
We have a second. All right, Earl Campbell, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Wisniewski abstain.
Thank you. Smith?
I will abstain as well.
And Hay. Okay, so the motion carries 8-0-2 and 1 not present for the vote.
Madam Chair, I move the board accepts the superintendent's recommendation that the contract of an induction contract teacher, employee A, is not renewed for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second. Okay, Spelt right, second. Any discussion? All in favor, you say aye. Aye.
Wisniewski, aye.
Mrs. Smith, I will abstain.
Okay, and Hay. Okay, so motion carries 8-0-2, 1 not present for the vote.
Madam Chair, I move the board accepts the superintendent's recommendation that the contract of induction contract teacher, employee B, is not renewed for 2023-2024 school year.
Second by Mr. Carlton Dallas. There being no hands up, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I will abstain.
How do you cast your vote?
I abstained.
Thank you. A. Okay. And so is that, Dr. Wisniewski, can you please repeat your vote?
Yes, Madam Chair, it's Wisniewski, aye.
Okay, so the motion carries 9-0-1 with 1 member not present for the vote.
Madam Chair, I move the board accepts the superintendent's recommendation that the contract of a letter of agreement teacher, employee C, is not renewed for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second by Chloe Gordon. There being no hands up, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Wisniewski, aye.
Thank you.
Mrs. Smith, I will abstain.
I will be abstaining as well.
Okay, thank you. So the motion carries 9-0-2.
Madam Chair, I move the board accepts the superintendent's recommendation that the contract of an induction teacher, employee D, is not renewed for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second. Okay. Victor Nay, second. All right, there being no hands up, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Wisniewski, aye.
Mr. Smith will be abstaining.
Okay, and Elizabeth, you said aye, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. So the motion carries 10-0-1.
Madam Chair, I move we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the renewal of certified employees for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second by Mr. Earl Campbell. All right, there being no hands up, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hay, Smith,
Yeah,
and Wisniewski in that order. Hay,
Aye.
Smith,
Abstain.
Wisniewski.
Abstain.
The motion carries 9-0-2.
Madam Chair, I move we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the monthly adult education homeschool report for April 4th, 2023.
Okay, second by Chloe Gordon. There being no hands up, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hay,
Aye.
Was Smith?
Excuse me, could you repeat that? I didn't hear what that one was.
Madam Chair, I move we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the monthly adult education homeschool report for April 4th, 2023.
Yeah, I vote yes on that. I apologize. Yeah, yes. Hold on.
And Wisniewski?
Yes.
Okay, and the second was Ms. Gordon, thank you. All right, that one carries unanimously.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to issue an award to MB Con Construction Company to provide construction management at-risk services for the rebuild of Hilton Head Island High School as described in RFP 23-012. The board authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with the contractor upon the expiration of the protest period.
Mr. Carlton Dallas, second the motion. There being no hands up, all in favor? Aye.
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 Mr. Smith,
Go ahead.
I said Mr. Smith, no.
No, thank you. And I think Hayes said yes.
Correct.
And Wisniewski,
Abstain, please.
thank you. The motion carries 911.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Education approve Amendment Number 40 with Ajax Building Company for the food service equipment improvements at 20 BCSD schools in the amount of $995,006.
Earl Campbell, second. There being no hands up, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hay.
So Hay.
Aye.
Thank you. Smith,
Aye.
Wisniewski.
Abstain.
Okay, motion carries 10-0-1.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Education approve Amendment Number 4 for Robert Smalls International Academy with J.E. Dunn Construction for a guaranteed maximum price of $1,704,365,000.38.
Second by Chloe Gordon.
Seconded.
Yeah, this is the last. Yep. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. I did raise some concerns about this because of issues with my constituents and field availability, which is a problem throughout the district. But I wanted to say that I am going to support this motion because I did get a lot of excellent feedback from my fellow board members. And I think this is absolutely within the scope of the referendum. So they changed my vote.
Mr. Smith?
Only thing I was going to say, I was going to ask, this is a referendum project, correct? That was a question.
Oh, yeah, we're tracking. Come to the podium and say exactly the dollar amounts.
Yes, just to be clear, Ms. Smith, this is funded by the referendum, but there is $200,319 that is 8% funds that will be used for track resurfacing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that for the public's knowledge. Thank you.
All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, Nay, excuse me, Hay.
Sorry, it's gotten difficult to hear you, but I am aye.
Okay, thank you. Smith
Oh, yes, ma'am. I said aye.
and Wisniewski.
Abstain.
Okay, so the motion carries 10-0-1.
Madam Chair, that concludes all of the motions from executive session.
Thank you. All right, next we need a motion to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Wisniewski, aye.
Mr. Smith, you vote.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I said aye, Madam Chair. Yes, ma'am. Aye.
Thank you. The motion, the agenda is approved unanimously. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We will have a moment of silence. Please be seated. The media has been properly notified. Our student performance tonight is the Ladies Island Elementary School Darts Music Group performing The Joy of Music by John Riggio under the direction of the music teacher, John Bittner.
Imagine a day. Imagine a world without beauty. What kind of a world? Be? Music of medicine brings beauty to our world. Music free. Music has and music can music brings beauty to our world. Our next brings beauty to our world. Music.
I would like to make a quick word that three of our singers are, they were recently auditioned and accepted into the elementary honor choir. And they are as follows. If I call your name, just take one step forward, and that's Penelope Dreyer, Janila Isom, and Aaliyah Jones.
Madam Chair, a week ago, Monday, I had the pleasure to attend a performance of the musical Aladdin. Aladdin is I think you've seen the Hollywood version by Will Smith and also the cartoon version. This was a performance put on by an elementary school, 2 elementary schools in concert. It was an hour and a half performance. It was in Spanish and English. The staging and everything was done by the students. I'm going to show you just the finale.
Mi amigos influyentes, pero yo voy a estar aquí, pase lo que pase. Young man, that's the best offering any father has. You're talking something important today. Oh, this must mean I can speak to people again. I cannot be proud of y'all. Y en este Colombia, sí. Yasmin, ya es la hora que puede ser mejor padre y mejor gobernante. Entonces tenemos tu bendición. Oh, am I salted or not? For years, far limited our progress without one wish to take away our languages. Now that we have them back, we can reunite as one Aguilar. And from this day forth, the princess shall marry whoever she chooses, whenever she chooses. Call me Gentleman Al. Oh, look here. Now we're all free. Leave it! Será fantástico encontrar a alguien que diga no, como reír, aquello que se llama all new world. A rising place I never knew, but when I way up here, it's crystal clear. Now I'm in a whole new world. Sentimental divino, soaring, tumbling, freewheeling through the sky, the whole wide world. Don't you dare close your eyes. Diplomatic, that's better. I'm like a shooting star. I pass so far. I can't go back to where I used to be. Every turn I step right. It's not every moment I'm better. I get to be something. I start with un mundo y admiro.
Thank you. This evening, we're going to celebrate our Students of the Month for the month of February. And character education for February in our character education program was formed to support parents' efforts to develop good character in their children. Tonight, we're celebrating the Character Ed Student of the Month, exhibiting the character trait of self-control. Continuing, I'm sorry, the Character Ed Student of the Month for Southern Beaufort County. This time around is from Bluffton Middle School is Baylor Davis. Self-control is defined as the ability to have control over your feelings or actions of oneself, in particular one's emotions and desires, or the expression of them in one's behavior, especially in difficult circumstances and or situations. And here to introduce his student is Bluffton Middle School Principal, Mr. Matt Hall.
Good evening, everybody. Just had a couple of notes real quick that the 7th grade team had written about Baylor. Baylor is a great example of the success of our school choice program. Baylor's a choice student in the Bluffton Middle School, and she has come in this year as a 7th grader and made a world of difference and impact right away. The 7th grade team said they had a quote from Oprah saying that real integrity is doing the right thing, knowing that nobody's going to know whether you did it or not. And for Baylor, this was all about honesty and integrity for her. And they noted that honesty and integrity are not always something that's easy to come by in middle school. People who display integrity are honest. They do not cheat. It doesn't matter if they will get caught or not. They won't even try. They are a student leader in and out of the classroom. Honesty and integrity means doing the right thing in all circumstances. Our Mustang of the Month should have their picture in the dictionary under the word integrity their teachers wrote. Their honesty and integrity has enabled them to become a member of the Bluffton Middle School Student Leadership Committee, where they work to better our school. This student always works hard. They never take the easy way out. Even when the going gets tough, they keep going with a smile and a kind word. The teachers say, "We are so proud of you, Baylor Davis. Keep up the good work." So we were absolutely. Her at our monthly Student of the Month assembly, and it was a great event, and we're very proud of you, Baylor, for being recognized and selected as the overall Student of the Month for the district south of the Bronx.
Now I'm going to take a page from our students in Aladdin and do this next one in bilingual format, if you will. So esta noche estamos celebrando a nuestros estudiantes del mes de febrero, y en el norte de Beaufort, del condado de Beaufort, tenemos al estudiante, buscar aquí, de Joseph Shanklin, y tenemos a la directora de la escuela, Miss Elizabeth or Liz Rivera, que está aquí para hablar sobre y comentar sobre este estudiante. Este estudiante tiene la habilidad de mantener control sobre sus sentimientos y sus acciones, en particular las emociones y expresiones de su conducta, especialmente durante situaciones difíciles. So I just read the character trait in Spanish, making sure that the parent can understand and appreciate the accomplishments of their child. So Ms. Rivera, if you can come up and introduce your child from Shanklin Elementary School that's been recognized as Student of the Month.
Good evening. Marjorie Del Cid Ramirez was our Student of the Month for Honest and Integrity. She is a 2nd grade Sand Dollar Scholar at Joseph Shanklin Elementary. So at Joseph Shanklin Elementary, our teachers do not nominate students for the Student of the Month. Our students do. And so these are some of the things that Marjorie's classmate said regarding her. Marjorie is always proactive. She consistently is honest and has integrity. She's honest and tells the truth. When she accidentally bumps into someone, she's honest and apologizes immediately. She's respectful to others and does not say things that can hurt others. She keeps her friends' secrets safe and does not spread rumors. She also speaks up for others when someone is not being treated with respect. And so we are so proud at Joseph Shanklin Elementary to have Jamarjorie as our student of the month.
Congratulations.
On the agenda is recognition of some of our Beaufort High School students, robotics students. The Hyper Resolution Beaufort High School robotics team is our next point of celebration and not only recognizes a feat of science and engineering by our students, but also their teamwork. And here to introduce Hyper Resolution and tell us about the team's award is Beaufort High coach and Project Lead the Way master teacher, Michael Rentz.
Good evening. I'm not going to talk very long. I'm going to let them talk a little bit about their team. Just want to talk a little bit about VEX Robotics. VEX Robotics is an international competition that spans from elementary school to high school in 3 different divisions. The season starts in May, runs through the end of April, which is the World Championships. VEX Robotics is a student-centered organization that puts really all of the work of competing, design, all of the good things we want our students to do in the hands of students. As the coach, I'm not really their coach. I'm more their mentor and or person who just makes sure I buys all the stuff they need when they need it. And then gets out of their way. I'm not even allowed to touch the robot because I'll break it. But it is a fantastic competition that we have many teams here in Beaufort County that compete and are consistently growing. And this team is qualified for the World Championships. I think it's your 4th time, 3rd or 4th. Their 4th time qualifying for World, starting at Ladies Island Middle. I actually introduced them to robotics at LIMS when they were 6th graders, and it was great to come back to the high school and pick them up now as juniors. But I'm going to let them talk a little bit about their team and the competition.
Okay, so if I can tell you a little more about VEX, what we do, we have a game each year. So we have to identify the problem and try to understand what goals we're trying to accomplish. And then we go through different design processes and use engineering skills. So we design a robot, we build it, we modify it, and we strategize, and then we compete and program with our robot. And we do all these things as a team together. And we have been really successful this year. Specifically, what we won at States was the Design Award, which we were recognized for having the best engineering notebook, which documented our engineering design process and our strategy. And we also had the best team interview, which went along with that, which was just an interview about our design process.
I forgot to introduce them. So I have Zach Glover. He's the driver and one of the builders on the team. Nathan Tran, who does the programming, design, and also is one of the builders. And Garrett Seckinger, who's the team scout and also helps build.
Congratulations. Great job. Proud of you. Great job. The next item to celebrate this evening is regarding a Skills USA State Champions. Recently, one May River High School and 3 Bluffton High School students competed in the Skills USA Championship through their courses with the Academy for Career Excellence. And here to tell us more about the competition and to introduce the students from ACE is our ACE Director, Dr. Mike Lavecchio.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. Last month, we had a wonderful opportunity. We sent roughly 40 of our students up to Greenville to compete against other high schools and CTE centers in a series of career technical education based competitions. So for instance, barbering, they were given a time allotment and they were given a haircut to give and they had to give it. And some of our students that placed included in areas like marine tech. We've prepared speech, speaking, and one teamworks. All told, out of the 40 students we brought up, a handful of them were models for those competitions, but we had 14 different students come home with medals, which is almost 40%, which we're really proud of and really a testament to the hard work of our students and staff. We're going to recognize our state champs. 3 of them are here tonight. One, I'll start with recognizing her, could not make it. She's our first aid CPR champion from Bluffton High School. Her name is Paxton Zaire. This is our 2nd straight year of winning the state championship in first aid and CPR. Next is our Marine Tech, which this is our 2nd year of winning the state championship in this as well. I'd like to welcome Hunter Kofal from Bluffton High School. And Hunter's teacher, Mr. Tucker, who is our reigning teacher of the year, is also back there. Next, our state champion in carpentry from May River High School, Justin Wagard. And lastly, our state champion in cabinet making, Mr. Deacon Qualls, and his teacher, he's from Bluffton High School, and his teacher, Mr. Bates, is back there as well. So Mr. Bates had 2 of the state champs. And we also had one more state champ who was from the Hardyville side, from the Jasper side. His name was Juan Morales, and he is in barbering. So we fared really well. Thank you for having us and recognizing us.
Beaufort High School students, if your parents are here and you'd like to come back up and we can get a group photo with parents, we'd like to do that. I know we didn't have the parents come up, and so I just want to make sure I offer that to you. You're good. Okay. Thank you. Dr. Grimes, that concludes our points of celebration.
Well, congratulations to our very talented students and their families. All right, next up is our first public comment session. And I'm going to read the back of the comment cards so everybody hears what our rules for speaking are. I will also say, if you're going to speak at our board meetings, I would encourage you to review the board policy in full, which is posted on our website, and it's under board policies. And the particular policy you need to review is governance culture, that's GC 2.23. But on the back of our comment cards, speakers addressing the board must: 1, confine comments to issues within the domain of the board. 2, refrain from racial comments, obscenities, and vulgarities. Shall not reference or make derogatory comments about specific individuals by name and shall not commit other breaches of respect. Speakers may reference the names of specific board members, but such communications will not include gossip, defamatory words, or abusive and vulgar language. Number 3, not exceed 3 minutes, visible, audible, timing device to be used. Persons may not yield time to one another. And 4, complete this card, including providing one or more specific topics, and submit to the board administrative assistant prior to the conclusion of this period for public comment. At the request of the presiding officer, individuals who violate the expectations of the board during public comment will be asked to cease speaking and return to their seats or to leave the board meeting. Should the participant fail to abide by the reasonable directive of the presiding officer, the board may prohibit the offending speaker from participating in further public comment sessions for a period not to exceed 6 months. We will go in the order of receipt of the completed comment cards for those of you in person, and then we will go to the those that are participating remotely. So our first commenter tonight is Peter Cooper on book bans.
Hello, I'm Peter Cooper, and as you can see, as per a very aggressive request, I've brought my blanket. And I'd like to assure everyone that despite the implication by those who claim to be advocating for the safety of children that this is not a safe space for us, my peers and I will not be going anywhere. A term you've all likely heard of by now is book looks. I'd like to elaborate upon this resource. If you recall, it is from this website that inflammatory, out-of-context quotations are cherry-picked. This website claims to be an objective resource, but the reality is quite the opposite. Firstly, this organization outright admits to not performing the Miller test to determine if a work is obscene, and rather admits to only gauging the merit of the most inflammatory sections of the work. Book looks were created by one Emily Mikish, a member of the prolific Moms for Liberty organization, and its rating system is derived from one created in a Moms for Liberty Facebook group. Now, affiliation is denied by both organizations, but the connection is clear, which brings me to another observation. Whenever this organization is brought up, there is a quick denial of any connection. If this group has congruent goals with you, why hide organization? This got me thinking about the similar denial of these bans being bans. Now, to be clear, they are. A ban is an official prohibition. These texts are being officially prohibited from libraries and are made inaccessible to a great many students who undergo many struggles and likely need exposure to these ideas the most. This refusal to take accountability for the things being advocated for is very telling. It exposes what is underneath the ragged veil of anti-obscene rhetoric. Returning to book looks, some interesting excerpts may be found among the decontextualized imagery. One selected from the recently banned text 19 Minutes reads, "He didn't think he felt those things about guys either, but surely you had to be gay or straight. You couldn't be neither." Another text, genderqueer, has, "My two favorite coworkers, AJ and Fish, are both out gay men," marked as something that may be unsafe for children to hear. In fact, the entire book is marked to have alternative gender ideologies. This clearly exposes the true motive here. This is not about protection. This is about controlling the narrative of our children's world to be one that doesn't recognize the horrors of our past and our present, and doesn't allow anyone that challenges the hegemony of the demographic proposing these bans. The result of this is the fact that in this state, around half of all queer children, in an effort to escape the lack of understanding and acceptance from our society, consider suicide a preferable alternative. Half. So when you make your decisions, remember, the real decision being made here is to humor the baseless moral outrage of the banning hegemony, or to protect the lives of children. Thank you.
Next, we have Millie Bennett speaking on book bans.
Hello, my name is Millie Bennett, and I'm a senior at Beaufort High School. This year, I have found that my favorite books to read are classics, such as Frankenstein and Pride and Prejudice. Reading these great works quickly piqued my interest in other classics. What speaks to me so much about these books is what they reveal about the time in which they were set. Essentially, these classics reveal the context of the time. In class, we devoted weeks to historical analysis of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, a book which incidentally was banned in South Africa in 1955 for indecent content. From feminism to religion to science, we examined the novel in many contexts to better understand its intent. Later, as I read Pride and Prejudice on my own, I found myself doing the same thing, just wanting to understand what Jane Austen was striving to communicate. I found it incredibly rewarding to do so. The reading and critical thinking skills my English teachers have taught me have shown me the importance of context in books. I mention this because context is the key element missing from the complainant's arguments against the 97 challenged books. At the last meeting, one of the complainants stood before the board and listed every swear word contained in one of the challenge books in a failed effort to shock us. She did the same in her recent belated appeal of The Art of Racing in the Rain, apparently disgusted by the use of the B word in the novel. However, what she is missing is the context of usage. In The Art of Racing in the Rain, the B word is used in its literal meaning to refer to a female dog. The author did not use that word as an insult or in a demeaning way, but in the word's actual capacity. If the complainants had actually read this book about a dog and his owner, they might have understood that context. These 97 books are on trial for a crime they didn't commit. These books are not harmful to our youth, as some have claimed that they are. The only crime committed is one often committed against literature, the crime of ignoring context. Without examining the context, we leave everything about a book behind, its heart, its story, and its capacity to educate and inspire. Every single book accused of any inappropriateness on this list has deeper meaning. These books should not be censored because we're afraid of a 7th grader learning a curse word. Thanks to pop culture and media, we consume in a variety of forms, which no one is trying to ban. Kids already know these words. I knew those words. What books give us is the understanding of how and when to use these words and ideas in context. And in the context of a time when extremist political forces are issuing book challenges and attacks on the public education across our country, I ask this board to use the critical thinking skills I sincerely hope you too possess from a lifetime of reading to continue to return our books to our libraries. Happy School Library Month, and thank you for listening to your students.
And next, we have Isabella Troy. Her topic is impacting students' lives.
Hey guys, so for the people that don't know me, I'm Isabella Troy. I'm a senior at Battery Creek High School. You would be surprised what can impact the life of a student. I mean, books, curriculum, community outreaches, clubs, teachers, the list, it just goes on and on. I know recently DALO's focus has been keeping books on the shelves rather than off, but tonight I want to ask the school board and most importantly, the community to help inspire students across the district in whatever way you can. After coming to school board meetings, the greatest thing that has stood out to me is the divide amongst us all. And division doesn't make community, unity does. It's in the word. Everything this school board does will impact the lives of students, and I think student opinion should be taken into consideration, but the only way that can happen is if we as a district create well-rounded, strong-minded individuals. I know of way too many students that are under-inspired and lack motivation in my school alone, and I can only imagine how many students there are district-wide. During these meetings, I feel that everyone's feelings are discussed except for the feelings of students, which are my classmates. I won't be here come June 2nd, but my siblings will be and future DALOs will be, and I want them to be in a school district that helps them thrive. Too many of us are struggling with mental health and too many are not being heard the way that we should. There are students that are going through things that can make an adult crumble, yet they still show up to school every day and are expected to give their 100%. The least that we can do is make it a place worth attending. We have some amazing students in this district, and all they need is a little motivation. I was lucky enough to find my inspiration at Creek, but that's not the case for every student. We're also losing way too many amazing teachers. And I think that that also contributes to the lack of motivation. And I know that did for me. When we start investing more into our students rather than focusing on minor things like how many times a book says the F word, which might I add is significantly less than the amount of times that it's used in the football locker room, we'll see less referrals, less kids in ISS, less suspensions, and less kids in right choices. We need more from our educators, mentors, and communities. We need more inspiration and more motivation. And again, you would be surprised what would impact the life of a student. Thank you.
Next, we have Elizabeth Foster. Her topic is book challenges.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak tonight. So in the complainant's recent appeal of the decision to return the last round of challenged books to school libraries, a statement was made about the role of public education in society. According to the author, quote, both the NEA and SC for Ed are very clear about wanting to transform education into something it was never designed to be, racially and socially just and equitable, end quote. I had to read this sentence several times to finally convince myself that there was no mistake, no typo, or missing word. The complainant was actually admitting to the shameful discriminatory truth behind every book banner's motivations. To refute the point about what public education was or wasn't designed to be, I'd like to talk a little about the designer himself, Beaufort's own Robert Smalls. In 1895, the South Carolina Constitutional Convention met to reconvene about election laws, one of which proposed a poll tax and literacy test to discourage illiterate Black citizens from exercising their constitutional right to vote. In response to these attempts, Robert Smalls made it abundantly clear exactly why he prioritized codifying compulsory education in South Carolina. Quote, how can you expect an ordinary man to understand and explain any section of the Constitution to correspond to the interpretation put upon it by the manager of election, when by a very recent decision of the Supreme Court composed of the most learned men in the state, two of them put one construction upon a section and the other justice put an entirely different construction upon it? To embody such a provision in the election law would be to mean that every white man would interpret it right and every Negro would interpret it wrong. I appeal to the gentleman from Edgefield to realize that he is not making a law for one set of men, end quote. Robert Smalls promoted literacy, comprehension, and critical thinking because he was working to create the society that the complainants fear, one of racial and social justice and equity. To properly fulfill the purpose of a democracy, Smalls recognized the necessity of an educated voter base with the ability to accurately analyze political developments, a mission that could only be made possible by a government's commitment to providing education. For this reason specifically, Robert Smalls worked to successfully amend the South Carolina Constitution to guarantee access to free education for every student in the state, regardless of race. Stories and institutions that promote social justice and equity amongst races do not counter the original intention of education. They fulfill it. Robert Smalls had the vision that a society with access to public education, for which no one had to opt in, would develop into an informed, knowledgeable democracy with the power to achieve his ultimate goal, the abolition of racial discrimination and prejudice. As we enter into School Library Month, we should honor the legacy of Robert Smalls by choosing to celebrate diversity in our community and on our school library bookshelves. Thank you.
Next, we have Claire Bennett. Her topic is community and book bans.
Good evening. Most of us in this room are lucky enough to call Beaufort County home, whether by the blessing of birth, orders from the military, or the privileged ability to choose it. We get to live our lives in this town that is saturated with a stunning natural beauty, home to a uniquely diverse population and distinguished by a rich history, which includes a national legacy of equity and education thanks to our local hero, Robert Smalls. It is the goal of many of us here tonight to commit our time and energy in support of this community. As we advocate for our amazing teachers, librarians, and students here in Beaufort, we are simultaneously watching communities across the country fall victim to nationally coordinated attempts at censorship by dark money-backed groups like Moms for Liberty. That specific group advertised a local training event in Oakity this past summer with the promise that attendees would learn how to use fear to gain respect. We have seen the real life manifestation of that community destroying strategy of sowing fear in order to reap political power in many disturbing ways. We have witnessed verbal attacks against these students, both in person and online. We have seen attempts to demonize and discredit anyone in the community who does not agree with the complainants. And we have heard the ridiculously aggressive and nonsensical legal threats against teachers and librarians. What I want to communicate tonight is this. We are not afraid, and we will not allow these attacks on our beloved community to go unanswered. For every attempt to intimidate a teacher, librarian, or student, we will pour support back into our schools. For every attack on the equitable representation of human diversity in our libraries, we will double down on our efforts at promoting literacy for all within this community. For every attempt to vilify books by taking words and passages out of context, we will continue to amplify the healing and unifying power of stories. Since the start of this unnecessary ordeal, it has been my greatest hope for books to be returned to shelves and for the important work of defending the freedom to read to result in strengthening this community. That is, in fact, what is happening. Over the past few months, I have met and learned from more kind, brilliant, and like-minded people than I can count. As our freedom to read community has grown, so has our resolve. Every deleterious attempt at controlling our community through fear will be countered again and again and again with love and inclusion and service. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. If you are here tonight for the love of this extraordinary community and in opposition to these meritless book challenges, please stand with me now in solidarity. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Mary Foster speaking about School Library Month.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. As you know, April is School Library Month. The week of April 23rd through 29th is National Library Week, and today, April 4th, is National School Librarian Day. I can vividly remember the library of my elementary school in Auburn, Alabama. It was my happy place. Our librarians helped me find a book every week to read and shared my enthusiasm for many of the books I chose. They also never laughed at me for checking out one particular book, Eddie and Gardenia, no less than 7 times in 2nd grade. It was about a boy and his pet goat, and for some unknown reason, I couldn't read it enough. When I started my career as a public elementary school teacher in North Carolina, our school librarian did an amazing job of helping even the most reluctant reader find books that they would enjoy. She also taught my students technology skills, and they quickly surpassed my own knowledge for creating presentations, interactive quiz games, and more. As an adult, I'm a frequent visitor to the public library here in downtown Beaufort. At this stage of my life as a reader, I generally come in knowing what I'm looking for, whether it's for my own personal use or for my preschool classroom, but the library staff is always exceptionally kind and helpful to me. I was chatting with a librarian there once about how much I enjoy the online access to sclens.org, where we can search books in all South Carolina libraries and borrow most of them, even if they're not in our local branch. I told her it feels a bit like magic to hear or read about a book late at night, open a website, and make arrangements for that book to be delivered to my local library for pickup a few days later, all in a matter of minutes. She laughed and agreed it was pretty amazing, but also gently and diplomatically reminded me that lots of people are working hard to make that magic happen. She is, of course, correct. Librarians, whether in school libraries or city libraries, are incredibly hardworking professionals. As a parent and a teacher, I know the research-proven benefits of exposing children to lots of books and helping them discover the books that are best for them so they can become lifelong readers. As libraries and librarians become one of the newest groups for a vocal minority to maliciously target and misrepresent, it seems more important now than ever to acknowledge the work they do and the expertise they share with all library patrons. I will continue to support and affirm the librarians I know personally and throughout our community, and I sincerely hope all of you will do the same. Thanks as always for all you do for our students, teachers, parents, and community as a whole.
Next up is Carrie Kearney speaking on book banning.
My name is Carrie Kearney, and I want to speak today as a concerned mother of 3 Beaufort County High students. Excuse me. Tonight, I want to touch on a specific point regarding the banning of books in our schools, process and procedures. I cannot imagine that you chose to become Beaufort County School Board members in order to spend so much of your time hearing about books that have already been vetted through Beaufort County's thorough book review policy. These distractions have sidetracked you from focusing on solving the real issues we have in our public schools. What has gotten us to this point seems to be the efforts of a few individuals to politicize our education system and hold the school board and the school district hostage as they try to turn books into political hot potatoes. First, our school district has a very thorough process for reviewing books before they even make it into our schools, with strict standards and various levels of reviews that include many people and many steps. Then there's a procedure for one parent who is unhappy with a book. That parent can sign a request to opt out of school library materials form to restrict their child's access to books or instructional materials. Lastly, there's an option to challenge a book by submitting a request for reconsideration of school library materials form. The policy directs that, quote, Beaufort County School District shall be operated to promote academic freedom and the student's right to read, end quote. Further, and I quote from the policy, school officials may not broadly remove books from a school library based on narrowly partisan or political grounds. And that policy discourages the monopolization of the challenge process by a few individuals. What we are seeing here has been a complete monopolization of the challenge process by a few individuals with a narrow political agenda. These individuals have hijacked the system, wasted taxpayer money, and bullied the district and the board by making wild and unsubstantiated threats. It feels like these few people have bullied you into ignoring your established procedures. And maybe that's because they've been louder than the citizens who have supported you, the policies and the books. So when these same individuals or a few others like them come back with a new list of 96 books to challenge, I urge you to stand up to them and enforce the established procedures. And I promise you, if the loud minority comes for you again, there will be an even louder majority here to have your back. Thank you.
Next up is Robin, and I believe it's Liebenberg. Her topic is books under review.
As a working poet National Poetry Month, I write my comments today in the form of a poem. Syllabus is a label glued to the inside cover of a book to identify its owner. Ex libris librum, a book manifesto. When I saw it was Sally, I knew my family was perfect. Joined cat and hat pranks and Samu, turned a tiger to butter, watched Ricky Tikki Tavi take the cobra under the bed, and learned big lessons, laughed big laughs, oohed and I found magic in creation forests, dreamed I could fly in the world, impossibles in the reading world became extraordinary. Each teacher met the girl I was, sneak reading during lessons, gobbling stories, classwork long finished. While schoolmates slowed each lesson, I entered new worlds delighted time could shrink, but wrinkles in time hop through space. I met adventure, mystery, worlds of wild black stallions, a secret guardian, treasures I shared in conversations with librarian pals, passed on to my friends, students, and children. Much later, I fed my soul in realms I can't actually enter, places where autocrats arrest and punish the fixer because he's Jewish, where a gulag archipelago calls dissenters, Girl longs for those stories, so she could be as cherished as Sally. Where a tale of forced surrogate motherhood makes handmaids real. Where imagination becomes fact, mixes dystopian futures and pasts, burns books at 40 and 51 degrees Fahrenheit, and ends the dangerous alchemy in stories, understanding, joy, empathy, passion, and respect for those maybe who don't look like Sally, see Sambo differently, and are still perfect. Thank you.
Next is Susan Madison on banned book.
By the time a child reaches 18 years old, they will have witnessed 16,000 simulated murders and 200,000 acts of violence via media, television, and social media. Each week, American teenagers see an average of 143 incidents of sexual behavior on television. Research conducted by the National Institution of Health clearly indicates there is a causal connection between violence and aggression in teenagers to exposure of media violence. Furthermore, the National Library of Medicine links adolescent sex to sexually explicit media. And while there are certainly other predictors of adolescent sexual behavior and violence, there's no evidence whatsoever literature is among them. So what are we afraid of? What is causing the mass hysteria of book banning? The answer, of course, lies in the theme of banned books. Common themes of banned books are injustice, racial inequity, same-sex relationships, dysfunctional families, and in the case of George Orwell's 1984, a centralized dictatorial government. We must ask ourselves, why are we more concerned about the fictional content of literature that is known to exercise the minds and spirits of students and open doors to other worlds, as opposed to the real and imminent threat that the media poses to the fragile minds and hearts of our children? And what does this say about us as parents, educators, and administrators? I offer no answer. Instead, I leave you with this question to ponder.
Next, we have Melinda Henriksen on book bans.
Good evening, and thank you for providing me an opportunity to speak to the board. This will be quick. As we know, the latest appeals from the book challengers arrived late and will not be considered. However, I was able to read them through a FOIA request. What I read was jarring and should give everyone in this room concern over their motives. One of the complainants accuses teachers and librarians of, and I quote, wanting to transform education into something it was never designed to be, racially and socially just and equitable. Again, one of the complainants accuses teachers and librarians of wanting to transform education into something it was never designed to be, racially and socially just and equitable. Let's be clear, one of the people responsible for removing 98 books from our school libraries is literally arguing against racial justice, social justice, and equality in our school system. This is not who we are in Beaufort County. This person should never have been deemed a worthy voice for educating our children, and I beg of you to stop appeasing these hateful intentions. Thank you.
Next, we have Barb Bausch on banned books.
Good evening.
This is from listening to voices of high school students. Kindergarten opened up my world. I played with others and made new friends. More importantly, I learned all sorts of things I didn't yet know. And I had a teacher that taught with love and encouragement. I was excited for each new school year. Summers were for reading to further my skills of comprehension and understanding, and to go on adventures that only books could take me. Now I'm in high school and things are so much more complicated than elementary school. Friendships aren't as simple and learning seems more restrictive. Maybe I'm wiser in understanding restrictions that have always been there. I teach myself a lot lately. Let me clarify. I carry the list of 97 banned books with me and will do so until I have read every last one. I thought my education had slowed since entering high school, but since I have been reading from that list, my world has opened up again. I'm understanding more about some adult fears. More importantly, I am learning from perspectives that I've yet to hear, like the gentleman who wrote Stamped. Those voices are missing from our history books, and I'm grateful, and I have learned a side of history not openly talked about in school. Tricks is another book I have read. It has allowed me to understand different ways of living and how situations can occur, no matter what age. I am thinking more solution-oriented to my society's challenges since starting on this list. Thank you for creating this list and opening up my world to greater understanding and love of others I haven't known before. May I suggest, instead of banning, we use these books to create discussion about people's fears and why the voices in these books are important. Trust the youth of this country and guide us in a way that will allow us to embrace each other and lead with love, not fear. And one poem from local poet Jacqueline Markham. Don't ban books. Don't ban books from our eyes. Let us choose what to read. To hide a story lies. Don't ban books from our eyes. Don't scheme to polarize us or our growth impede. Don't ban books from our eyes. Let us choose what to read. Thank you.
All right, the board needs to make a decision. That is the time period of 30 minutes stated in our agenda and also stated under board policy. We have completed 11 people commenting, and there are an additional 6 who would like to comment. What is the board's will? Ms. Boatright.
Can I ask a question? Are they all the same topic?
No, the 3 that are here are not all the same topic. Okay. And then there's 3 on the by phone, and I don't know their topics.
Okay. Yeah, my concern is just that people that came to speak on something other than book banning might have gotten squeezed out from 11 people in front.
We're just going in order.
I know. I'm just saying that would be my concern about extending the time.
All right.
Motion? That's your motion?
I move we extend the 30 minutes and
Second.
yeah.
Okay. To finish those that have submitted. Okay. Any discussion? Mr. Smith?
No, actually, I put my hand up to make the motion, but the motion has already been made.
Okay.
I do want to point out, I think that I love hearing from the students, and I think they are making absolutely excellent arguments, and the parents as well. I've written down some of their comments, but at the same time, we don't have this on our agenda for today. But I do think that since we have other topics, we need to extend the time period.
Mr. Carlton Dallas.
Madam Chair, I'm a little concerned that if we extend today, maybe setting a precedent that could become irrevocable. So has had the opportunity, but I just want us to have some discipline about it. Maybe they can come into the second. Is there a second session that they can be rolled into so they have a chance to speak?
Yes, we have a second public comment.
I will suggest that for consideration.
Right.
I do. We talked about this too, though, but I do think it's important when we have big topics like this that we balance, that we hear other people back and forth. I know we go by order that they arrived, but I do know Robert's rules also requires us to make sure that we're, spreading the time out appropriately. So going forward, maybe that's something we could talk about too.
All right, let's vote on the.
My hand's up.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
Actually, I was just going to comment on what was just said. We always extend the time to the community to give them time to make their comments regards to the topic that has been this board past practice. Just want to put that out there. Thank you.
All right, so the motion on the table to be displayed is to extend our first public comment session beyond the 30 minutes to include the 6 remaining people who would like to speak. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Wisniewski, aye.
Okay. Nay, Mr. Carr. Nay, nay from nay and nay from Dallas, Mr. Dallas. And
Nay
any
from Hay.
And nay from Hay. Thank you. And do we have any abstentions? All right. So the motion carries, I believe 8-3-0. So the next person speaking is Mayor Deckard on FOIA, and I believe it's submittals. The handwriting's hard to read. Motion to our assistant. She'll just set them right there next to Dr. Rodriguez, and they'll be passed out.
Hi, my name is Mayor Deckard. I actually came to speak about FOIA requests about banned books. So sorry, it's about right. But I'll be very brief. I just happened to see a posted FOIA by somebody who has submitted many FOIAs to the district about banning books, and the FOIAs are very aggressive. I'm not sure if some of these folk who have, I consider it kind of this Moms for Liberty invasion, understand that FOIA is just about documents. It's not about your personal feelings or being angry at people on the board or being demanding. It's a time frame that governmental entities have to give you documents. And if you don't get the documents, you can revise your request, you can sue the district, you can stop asking, but it's not a place for your personal feelings. And it just seems to me that ever since the district was thrown into this chaos, this book banning, and I understand that that's the intention nationwide, is to throw districts into chaos by demanding the removal of a large number of books. But it seems to me that what used to be a very civil exercise, I've had children in the district. I went to school board meetings my entire adult life as a parent. It wasn't uncivil the way it's been the last few months. And I just want to say that when we see it in these FOIAs, and I'm not going to say the person's name, even though it's public, but when they say things like, you know, you better get me those copies immediately, or, you know, get them by tomorrow. And, you know, the time frame's not even up for days and days and days. Just the tone. I know that must bother the board, and it must bother the employees, because it really upsets me. And I'm wondering how we can get back to a level of civility that I think we deserve in this community. And I think part of it comes from pushing back when a vocal group, regardless of what their issue is, thinks that they can create chaos and be an upset instead of working towards solutions and being civil to one another. And I think we need pushback on that as soon as we see it happening, to keep it from getting to the point where we are today. And that's all I wanted to say. And thank you for your attention tonight.
Next up, we have Mel Campbell, Equity. What does it look like?
Trust that you've been convinced that we're wasting a lot of time on the book banning. not getting to the point where we're solving problems that won't get us back to this situation 50 years from now. 69 years ago, Brown versus Board of Education was voted on by the Supreme Court, and separate but equal was struck down as inequitable. Today, we're still trying to solve that problem. Now, my concern is not about the book banning, because if I tell you what I think about the book banning, it'll be a mixed bag. My concern is facility and programs. You know, in the next few years, we're going to have another referendum. That referendum is going to be about building new schools. And I'm concerned with what kind of programs will we have in those schools. Right now, many of those programs is an extension of inequitable education. You know, from 54 till 71, South Carolina saw the wisdom to build Black schools, although it should have been desegregated schools. These Black schools may have served a purpose at that time, but there was really a reluctance to embrace the ruling. And we ought to know that as we fight today. And my concern is another new school at Hilton Head, and I know we need it. I'm from Hilton Head. But what about the program? I see a certain amount of dollars being spent inequitably there, just at that school. And I'm not knocking an IB program that spends thousands of dollars more than remedial program. I'm looking at the results. You know, I've came to a number of board meetings, and, you know, the accolades being extended are mostly to the same minority students, that high achieving academic white child. That's what I see when I come here. I don't see a number of other students getting the academic achievement awards. You might see differently, but to me, that's still 1954.
Your time is up. Thank you. Next, we have Julie Matthews, and the topics include apology, books, and school safety.
I need a step stool. Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. First, I would like to make two apologies. One to the school board for not respecting the gavel, and the second to the audience for not knowing the school board policy in regards to addressing an individual in the audience by name at the March 7th school board meeting. In regards to the second apology, I would like to make a suggestion that the list of rules are placed on the public sign-in table, not on the back of the sign-in slips where it's not known to be there. However, thank you for reading the rules this evening. Now I would like to finish the remainder of my speech from March 7th, 2023. To the young eloquent speaker who made the comment that books don't kill, guns do, I beg to differ. Guns don't kill either. It's people that do. I understand that this is a very sensitive subject now in view of the recent school shooting. However, it is my belief that books like 19 Minutes can plant ideas in troubled students' minds to go on a school shooting rampage. In regards to anyone that believes that this is part of a political agenda, I believe that is completely untrue. It's parents, grandparents, and citizens that are concerned about the direction the youth are headed in. The objective has never been to ban books. And honestly, when the news media
and the school board refers to it as a banning of books. That is complete misrepresentation of the facts. The objective has been to protect students from inappropriate literature, to raise the bar and provide the students with age-appropriate quality literature that prepares them for a successful future in society. Another suggestion I would like to make would be to simply put all the questionable books in the principal's offices. Any parent or guardian that wants their child to read one of those books could make an appointment to meet with the principal and check the book out for their child. Once again, this is not to ban books, but to protect children's minds from adult
Please
content.
be quiet in the audience.
Thank you.
All right, now we're moving to the 3 commenters by phone.
Valerie, I'm putting you on speaker for public comments. Please state your first and your last name and your topic, and you'll have 4 minutes. Are you ready? All right. Go ahead, please.
Hi, this is Valerie Bird Fort, and my topic is on book selection. Am I ready to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Happy School Librarian Day. I am a member of the faculty at the University of South Carolina. I teach school library courses in our School of Information Science. I have been on faculty for 5 years, and before that time, I worked in public libraries and was an elementary school librarian in the Columbia area for more than 15 years. I'm speaking to you today as an expert in the field of library and information science. In the courses that I teach, I focus on children's books and materials, library programming, and school libraries. The use of reliable selection tools in collection development is one of the first topics covered in my children's materials course. There are also lectures given in the companion course, Young Adult Materials, both of which our library science students on the school library track and youth services track are required to take. We instruct our students to use criteria from their collection development policies to select materials for their libraries. And if they end up in a library where there is not a collection development policy, they are taught how to write those policies. I have a few highlights from the American Library Association Selection and Reconsideration Policy Toolkit to share with you. Materials school librarians select from their libraries support and enrich the curriculum and/or students' personal interests and learning. They incorporate accurate and authentic factual content from authoritative sources, and they earn favorable reviews in standard reviewing sources and/or favorable recommendations based on preview and examinations materials by professional personnel. Standard reviewing sources are not websites like Common Sense Media, Goodreads, or BookLooks. Standard reviewing sources are journals and resources that have been around for years, including School Library Journal, which was first published in 1954, the Horn Book, first published in 1990, and Kirkus, first published in 1933. Selecting materials for a library takes time, exploring multiple resources, reading book reviews, gathering student and teacher input, and more. Reviews from professional sources include more than the number of times a certain word is mentioned in a book. A review from a professional source includes information about the content of the book, information about the author and illustrator. A recommendation for purchase is often included in the review, and yes, there are sensitive content disclaimers. The professionals writing the book reviews have been trained in selection and collection development. They are librarians and professors in the field, and they are experts that other librarians trust to guide their selection decisions. If you're interested in learning more, I'm happy to offer a deeper dive into selection and collection development. And I encourage anyone who is so passionate about school libraries to consider earning a master's degree in library and information science.
Hello, David. I'm calling you for public comments. If you will state your first and last name and your topic, and you'll have 3 minutes. Are you ready? Go ahead, sir.
This is David Cook. I'm going to speak about curriculum and public comment rules and surveys if I have time. Last week. The next concern with 8th grade advanced ELA curriculum, which I cannot find online in the Rubicon. So I have to ask, is it normal for 8th grade advanced ELA to read a 5-year-old article from The Guardian that has been cut and pasted into a Google document, and it talks about human trafficking? More explicitly, one of the personal narratives was from a 15-year-old girl from Kenya who talked about her experience in human trafficking. This would be a college-level discussion. Unfortunately, the teacher in this class girl genitals off a young girl's body. That's right, genital mutilation. Complicit behavior in putting sexually explicit books back into the library is now empowering activist teachers to do this in class. This behavior is going to get this teacher in trouble whether the district does something about it or not. Behavior and by subsequent response. You heard it. This is the second activist teacher go off script. This teacher also acted in violation of HRS 4 staff conduct policy and HRS 4.1, the anti-grooming policy. She also broke state law as well as violated the Safe Schools Act. The following week, she proceeded to unlawfully dispose of education records. However, on a positive note, I do want to thank Dr. Fourth, I was interrupted during my public comment period and hung up on by the chair. Routinely allowed people to read excerpts from books, quotes from authors, philosophers, and even cite biblical scripture. On that day, Dr. Lodge personally attacked me by cutting off my call because I was reading a statement from my daughter at the time. Finally, my first right to speak. Last year, you tried to stick a sheriff's deputy on me. Please stop. You've made it personal now.
Hello, this is Catherine. I'm calling you for public comments. If you will state your first and last name, I'm ready to put you on speakerphone and you have 3 minutes. Are you ready? Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Freely, and I'm on the board of the South Carolina Association of School Librarians. And it is sad that politically motivated groups have used books as a way to target your school district. I applaud those who've given their time and energy to defend intellectual freedom, especially the students who have proven themselves, especially tonight, to be thoughtful, eloquent, and above the fray. Tonight, I'd like to give a brief lesson on the methods librarians use to evaluate and purchase books. Librarians take multiple master's level courses to gain this knowledge, but I'll simplify and focus specifically on book review sources for now. There are a variety of book review sources available, and each one serves different purposes. For clarity, we'll call the first group of sources amateur and the second professional. Under the amateur group of sources, there are informal review sources used by consumers like Amazon Reviews and Goodreads. These sites contain crowdsourced reviews generated by people who have purchased or read the book and can be highly subjective or biased. Additionally, there are sources such as booklist.org, which are used by partisan political groups who have the specific aim of removing books from school library collections. This site has been frequently used in complaints and public comments in Beaufort. These informal amateur review sources are created by consumers and partisan groups and have no standard for reviewer qualifications. These websites should not be used to make a determination about the quality of a book for a school library. So now let's take a look at the second group of review sources, and that would be considered professional review sources. These are used by librarians and specified for use in Beaufort County Material Selection Policy IS 38. There are professional trade publications that review for general audiences, and some examples my colleague just gave additionally are Booklist, Publishers Weekly, and Focus. They employ reviewers who are experts in evaluating books. Within the category of professional trade publications, there's also discipline-specific resources, and for school librarians, there's several library-focused publications such as School Library Journal, School Library Connection, and Voya. These feature reviews from school librarians, educators, or other trained children's and young adult literature specialists who can assess a book for its literary quality and potential appeal to K-12 students. These reviewers receive training and guidance from editors who have experience in publishing and who can ensure that the reviews are objective. The reviews of these publications are written with the intent to guide library workers when purchasing materials without partisan or political motivations, and include a summary of the plot, an appraisal of literary quality, and the recommended age or grade range. Only professional review sources should be used to make determinations about the quality and potential utility of materials for a school library collection. Sources supporting my assertions are listed in my written statement, and that can be emailed to you.
That concludes our first public comment session. Next on the agenda is the chair's report. Last week, I, along with the superintendent and general counsel of the school district, had the pleasure of attending the 2023 Community Forum for Child, Adolescent, Mental Health and Wellness that was sponsored by the Low Country Alliance for Healthy Youth, and was hosted at Bluffton High School. I personally thought as a physician that the program was truly outstanding. The moderator was Ben Sanger from WSAV, and the featured speakers were two psychologists, both from MUSC, the Medical University of South Carolina, Dr. Anna Kirkland and Dr. Alexis Garcia. We also heard messages from the Youth Coalition of the Low Country Alliance for Healthy Youth and Teens for Healthy Youth. As the program concluded, there was a Q&A session as well. I would encourage parents and students and community members to pay attention to these forums in the future and get involved with a wonderful organization. We also had in the audience both mayors from Hilton Head and Bluffton. Great program, and thank you to those that organized it. For years, the Board of Education is contracted with the county channel for video recording and broadcasting of our meetings. In mid-December 2022, the county unilaterally terminated our contract without cause, effective at the end of January 2023. That is why for the last 2 months, we have had nearly all of our meetings here at the district office, so the school district could video record for the public. The county has recently informed us that they will resume our prior contract with the county channel, and this should allow us to resume our meetings south of the Broad River beginning in May. Next on our agenda are the committee reports. First, we have the Legislative Committee, Chairman Earl Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At our last committee meetings, legislative committee meetings, we had a discussion with many of the bills that we received. We talked with our lobbyist, Lynn Stokes Murray. And also we will get into more detail at our work session on these bills. We have one legislative priorities. I make a motion that we approve the priority. You have a copy of this in your.
I'll second that motion.
So can I ask a question? Nobody else has their hand up. Is that the same legislative priorities that we had in 2020?
Some of them are.
Okay. So just show me the document that you're advocating for. No, I just want to be sure I'm looking at the right one. What's the title on it?
Okay, title is Beaufort County School Board 2020.
Yeah, okay.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the one I was referencing.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Boatwright?
I was waiting for the motion to come up on the screen. So I don't have a question so much on this, but I have one thing that I know we haven't discussed, and it doesn't need to go on this legislative agenda, but it really bothers me, and I wanted to take this opportunity to bring it up. South Carolina Schools does not participate in DACA. So our English language learning students cannot go to our colleges with in-state tuition. They have to pay out-of-state tuition, which effectively for most of them means it's unattainable. And there are several students who have graduated from our schools who cannot access college. Oh, yeah.
Did you say DECA?
DACA. Dreamers, am I?
Oh, you're talking about DACA. Okay, I got it. I thought you were talking about the
and then you thought I just went on a wild
DECA.
tangent about affordability of college.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So my problem is this, and I don't know if Lynn Stokes Murray's on here, but
she is. So
okay, good.
You can finish it.
Yeah. One of my questions is I would love to get the politicians in here and ask this, because we are held accountable for test scores for English language learners. And yet we are denying them the opportunity to pursue an education. In addition to which, we have had students graduate from our schools who have gone out of state, been educated as teachers that cannot come back and teach because of their immigration status. And these are people who have lived here their entire lives or lived here a large percentage of their lives. And I don't understand how the politicians can have both concepts. One, make the schools completely accountable, put us on a TSI, ding us on the state report card because of the performance of people that are non-English native speakers. And then at the same time, basically take away any incentive for these kids to go on and further their education. So it's not so much, it's something I'd like to consider at some point, because we are now, I think, at 47% countywide for the Latino population. Am I maybe making that up? I know in Hilton Head, we're in the 40s. And it's something that I think that we should turn our attention to going forward.
So Lynn, since you're on the call tonight and the motion on the table is our legislative agenda for the board, do you have any comments? Do you feel that this is adequate? Do you feel like we're overlooking any areas that we should add to this?
No, I think y'all have done a great job of sorting through the hundreds of bills that are sitting in the General Assembly presently. And I think you have chosen the things that are most impactful for your teachers and your students, which is, I know, what your first priority is. So I don't think there's anything else unless something happens in this next month. And there are a few things that are still sitting out there that we can certainly discuss, but I think it's a very reflective agenda for the school board.
And so I just want to be sure it's not what's being displayed. Can we put up it's the heading? Well, my page just left me. It's the Beaufort County School Board 2020 legislative priorities. So we had this in 2020, and and reviewing it, it seems like they all apply now.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to get
Dr. Wisniewski?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to get some clarification. I serve on the legislative committee, and unfortunately, I wasn't at the March 16th meeting. The document in board docs that references the 2020 legislative agenda, I believe that the bill numbers might be the 2020 bill numbers that are on there. If someone could just clarify if those are the old bill numbers or if those are the ones that would reflect this year's session.
I will say that and I don't see it. I'm just seeing what we talked about at our last meeting, but the bill numbers, you're correct, would not be the same. If Robin would just forward that to me, I can update the bill numbers and the status of where things are. And I'll be happy to do that, do a quick turnaround and get it back to you.
Thank you for that. And then Madam Chair, I had one more question or comment, actually. So on that agenda, I believe there was discussion. I can't remember if it was, I think it was in one of our meetings in February. We discussed the pre-kindergarten statement, I believe. And so one of the comments that I made was that, and I think, Madam Chair, you were there and you might have agreed with this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I had stated that I desired for that to be changed to not only specify economically disadvantaged students, but all qualified pre-kindergarten students. I'm of the belief that we should open up pre-kindergarten to as many students as we can possibly take. There's kindergarten not being compulsory in South Carolina. Some of the students that we receive for the first time in school are in first grade, and anything that we can do to help get them off to a solid footing, regardless of economic status, I think is beneficial for everyone in the community.
Yeah, and I noticed, I agree with you, Dr. Wisniewski. Yes, I was at that meeting, and yes, I noticed that in our 2020 legislative priorities, which is in our folders tonight, the last bullet point was the state-funded full-day kindergarten for economically disadvantaged students. So I think there's the confusion, Earl, comes from. So I think this is the document, the school board legislative committee meeting Monday, February 27th.
Right.
And at the bottom of this page and going on to the next page are the legislative agenda priorities, correct?
Right.
Okay. I think that was the confusion. Mr. Smith?
My question in regards to this document is, this is a living document, correct?
What do you mean by a living document?
In terms of a living document means that this document is live and it can always be added to at any point in time. Basically the document can be added to any point in time. If there's something else that we want to add to the agenda, it can't be added to it.
Well, it would have to be if the board approves it this evening. The way that something would be added to it would have to be again by board approval.
Correct. Right. And that's what I mean. That the board would want to add something to the document that this is a living document and not just one time. Because I do understand that we do have a contract with this company, so that I just didn't see a problem with that. If there was something else that we would want to add, that we could add it at any point in time moving forward. So I just figured that would be more of a caveat to move this forward. I just want to get a clear understanding on that.
So Lynn, so now with the clarification, so it's on the screen. This is that document that you prepared and I believe and presented on the February 27th committee meeting. And so the portion on the first page towards the bottom that says legislative agenda priorities, and going on to the back would be, I guess I'd say your recommendations for the board to approve. Can you hear us, Lynn?
Or I thought you were asking that for the chair of the legislative committee. I'm sorry. Yes,
So there was a little misunderstanding when we started this discussion. So the school board legislative committee meeting a document from Monday, February 27th, I believe was prepared by you, and that on the bottom of the first page and extending onto the second page were legislative agenda priorities. And these were the ones that you thought would be appropriate for our board to approve for this year.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And just in that vein, if I may, is it appropriate? Are we in discussion? I don't want to mess y'all up. on
Yes,
your-
we are, because we have the motion on the table.
Okay, just to kind of update you from activities that have happened over in the last 24 hours. We've been meeting in the Senate Finance Committee on the 23-24 state budget bill. And I just wanted to share this information with you because I think it really coincides with what you all are working toward, at least on teacher salaries and the conversation I heard around 4K, and certainly teachers' bills of rights. The school start date, as you know, is a bear because of another county in the coastal area that does not want to change, but we continue to work towards local control over that. But I just want to mention very quickly, because I know you have a robust agenda. We have at present about $1.35 billion to be allocated this year, with another billion expected to come when the Board of Revenue and Fiscal Affairs meets again in May. So what has happened so far is nothing short of incredible for K-12 education. Of that $1.3 billion that's been allocated, at least by the Senate Finance Committee, 8 of that billion is dedicated to K-12. And included in that, you'll be pleased to know that teacher salaries are being raised by $2,500. The school resource officers will be paid for, and in every school, bus driver pay is increased by 20%. And there's also a line of just shy of $6 million for full day 4K programs under the First Steps program. And that's just a few things I wanted to highlight. I am happy to be with y'all live next month, and we can delve into this after the House has had the second bite at the apple and before it goes to the governor for his vetoes. And I'm going to send y'all the latest package of provisos that were added on the Senate side for your review. But it's looking like it's going to be a great year for education. And I really do think that what you all are sending as your priorities coincides with the thought process that's happening this year at the General Assembly.
Mr. Campbell?
Mrs. Stokes, you mentioned about pre-K.
Yes, sir.
Is this for every student that want to go to pre-K, or just going to pick a percentage?
I don't believe that it will handle everybody, but I can see how they've written the proviso when they come out tomorrow.
Okay.
To determine how they're going to strategically disperse that money. But they did allot $5 million, 5.2 million, almost $5.3 million for full day 4K. So I think that's great. I'll shoot you that language though, as soon as it's available. Like I said, they just finished this afternoon, so I've just got the highlights for you tonight.
All right, Mr. Smith.
Yes, along with that, my is the state, these bills that they're approving, they're not demanding that the district is funding these. They are funding these bills themselves, correct?
This is a statewide appropriation, yes, sir.
Okay, because I just wanted to make sure, because I saw some of them I was looking at them, and I said that they were mandating the district to do a couple things, and I didn't see where it was coming from, but I dig into that a little later. And also I saw something that the former governor of Florida is in South Carolina pushing public funds for prioritizing schools. I'm hoping that that's something that's on our agenda that we will be keeping our eyes on as well.
Yes, sir. I think you're referring to Senate Bill 39, which has passed the Senate and is now before the House Education Committee. They had a public hearing on that bill this afternoon. That's the education savings accounts, which I think you're referring to. It's a separate pot of money that would be appropriated for independent schools up to, I believe the latest number they're talking about is $6,000 per child. The devil's in the details, of course, and I think that's what the House is working toward. I suspect there'll be some more amendments to the bill, but we can certainly have that conversation at our next legislative committee meeting, because that bill is traveling along. But that is why Governor Bush was in the state today, was being supportive of that concept of education savings accounts for special needs kids.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure. Dr. G, you need anything else from me?
Well, so I'm going to ask you, we're going to vote on this, and so what would the next steps be? Would you, because, this is ever changing since the General Assembly is in session, are you going to, how should I say, wordsmith the priorities into like a statement for the board?
Sure.
Similar to what we had in 2020. I believe that the 2020 statement was done by, at that time, our vice chair, Kathy Robine.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it would help to.
Yeah, I'm happy to send y'all a draft, and I'll wordsmith it, and then y'all tweak it, and then we can submit it for approval. But you're right. I mean, it's a moving target, and we're in session, as you know, until the second Tuesday in May. So we've got about 6 weeks left before we're done for this year.
Yeah, and may I ask, Earl, when is your next legislative committee meeting?
Until the work session.
Oh, but that's not that far away.
No.
That's a few weeks.
Rachel can add.
Okay, so why doesn't Lynn bring her draft forward to your next committee,
Right,
where you guys can weigh in on it and then bring it back to the board? Does that sound at the work session? If we could bring it to the board at the work session, that would be, because the time frame is rapidly diminishing. Yeah.
So we will follow.
Yeah, but I think you will.
Okay, once she send once we get the information, we schedule a meeting.
Okay. All right. So there being no further hands up, all those in favor of having this as our
Yes.
My apologies. I did have my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand. Go ahead, Dr. Wisniewski.
Just making sure. So the document that says February 27th, towards about halfway down the first page, where it indicates legislative agenda priorities, with the addition of the pre-K conversation, pre-K for all, that would be our priorities for this current legislative session. The items that are above it, do we want to take position statements on those or no? Because I know there's some that are, I'm not sure where they were in the cycle, so I apologize if there was discussion about those at the March 16th meeting, and we kind of said those are dead in the water and not worth pursuing. I just want to make sure we're not leaving anything off.
Robin, if you can scroll back down for me. Keep going.
Sorry.
Certainly on the discipline bill, everybody has asked me for a summary of that legislation. that legislation has not moved. I believe they're going to create a study committee over the summer to look at that. And we can reflect a comment based on what happens as a result of that study committee. I mean, clearly, I think it would be hard for you all to take a position on something that hasn't even been acted on yet.
Right.
Generally, you would be supportive of juvenile justice reform, but the devil's in the details, right? So I think that we can wordsmith that so it's impactful, but gives you some leeway.
So Rachel,
Sorry, I was trying to clarify. I was talking about the ones on the first page that are the first 4 mentioned, I think. SB 11, SB 244, HB 3318, and HB 3485, because I know that there were positions, I believe, that were taken in committee, at least, on SB 244. We stated that we were not in favor of that. So I didn't know if these were going to be added or if it was only going to be those things that are below the legislative agenda priorities line.
That's y'all's call. I mean, it seems like to me that based on our meeting that we had back in March, those were things that you wanted to take a position on, and it would seem like you would want to include that.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to make sure I'm clear on what I'm voting for. So
okay,
if these if everything on these 2 pages is going to be included in our positions of them taken, that's all I'm looking for clarity on. Is that the understanding, Madam Chair?
Yeah, I think that's better than what I said. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, SB 244 and the other ones, we don't need to have that on.
Well, she can, so why don't we have Lynn bring to your committee, or once she can, like we said, kind of wordsmith and draft the letter for us and bring it to your committee as a draft. And then if there are little tweaks your committee would like to make, go ahead and do that and then present it at the work session.
Okay, that's
okay
fine.
for the full board. All right.
That's fine.
So I think we're ready to take the vote. So all those in favor of proceeding with this document and as we already mentioned, wordsmith by our legislative lobbyists to be our legislative agenda priorities for this session, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And any abstentions? So those of you online, all right, we'll go backwards alphabetically. Wisniewski?
Aye.
Okay. Smith?
Aye.
Hay?
Aye.
Okay. So I think we just have, so I think it passes unanimously with one not present for the vote, Ms. Boatwright. Thank you, Lynn, for your attendance this evening and your work for the Beaufort County Board of Education.
It's always a pleasure. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you.
All right. So next we have Academics Committee, and tonight we have Angela Middleton reporting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met on April 4th and we talked about several things. The first thing we talked about, Dr. Stratos updated the committee on the opt-out form. She presented the changes and the process. She also provided 3 options for the committee to review, and she pointed out what the opt-out form does and does not do. And there is going to be a detailed presentation under the superintendent's report, so I will not steal their thunder. The second thing is Dr. Stratos shared with the committee the new 2023-24 school choice booklet. The booklet looked wonderful. I wish I had my copy here. Every board member should have gotten a copy. School choice started March 1st, 2023. The applications were available on the website and the deadline was March 31st, 2023 at 5 p.m. She also reminded the committee that there are 6 schools that are at or above capacity and do not have availability for students outside the attendance zone to apply for the school choice. And those schools are Bluffton High School, Hilton Head High School, May River High School, H.E. McCracken Middle School, Okotie Elementary School, and Pritchardville Elementary School. Last but not least, I'm going to ask Dr. Stratos to come up to the podium. She had some updates that she presented to us for the 2023-2024 calendar. Thank you, Dr. Stratos.
Good evening, and thank you, Mrs. Middleton. And Madam Chair, I do have a few items just to update on the calendar that we had approved. I'd like us to look at the month of June and recognize on the when it was transcribed, if you can go back down, Mrs. Cushenberry, thank you. If we look at the month of June, it was when the transcription from an Excel spreadsheet to publisher that was provided in the last presentation, some days were left off. So I do want us to recognize that the month of June 2024, the academic school year will end on June 5th. That is that will be a half day. And then I would want to bring forward the graduation dates to the board, as graduation will start on June 3rd at 7 p.m. 2024. Thank you, Mrs. Cushenberry. And that will be May River High School. June 4th would be Beaufort High. June 5th would be Bluffton High. Please note each one of those 3 high schools I just shared with you, graduations will be at 7 p.m. June 6th, we will conduct 2 graduations. Battery Creek at 10 a.m. Hilton Head Island High School at 7 p.m. June 7th, 2 graduations. We would have Whale Branch Early College High School. And when I say 2, in the event we have to have a makeup. I did not bring this forward in the prior presentation, subject to I thought we would have a board meeting on June 4th. I don't have that power of authority to do that. I do understand you've made amendments to your board meetings to make this accommodation for the upcoming academic school year. So at this time, I bring this forward to you to address the updated information as well as our graduation dates for 2024.
Thank you, Dr. Stratos. Madam Chair, I have a motion. I move that the Beaufort County School District Board of Education approve the calendar change recommendation for the 2023-2024 academic calendar and 2024 graduation dates.
Okay. The motion made by Angela Middleton and second by Chloe Gordon. Any discussion? Ingrid?
Thank you. So how typical is it? Because I know this year there's some, consternation about the fact that some graduations take place after faculty has left. Is that typical for us at Beaufort County School District, or is that kind of a new thing? Is that normal?
I want to say it's a combination of both, Mrs.
Combination of
Boatwright.
normal and abnormal?
Yes, ma'am. And I share that only because you have a limited window. Summer school happens rather quickly.
Right.
So we're met with a few challenges. Summer school, second challenge as well, especially for this academic school year, is construction.
Right. So this is for next year though, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So then my follow-up question to that would be, if this year, why would the same schools be on the, if is it seen as detrimental, which I'm not sure it will be, because I've never attended a graduation after school's gone. I hope that all the faculty returns and it's great and no one notices. But if it is indeed a hindrance or it is a lesser experience, wouldn't we want, because Hilton Head again, and I'm their elected school board representative, both times will be on the one of the 2 schools that is not in that window.
Dr. Stratos, what is the last day of employee work days?
Well, for this academic school year, sir, we have June 9th as we will already be in school, summer school. So the last day of employees is actually June 6th for this academic school year.
For this year or for 2024?
Well,
when you say this.
This is in 2023.
This on my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As on my wonderful calendar in this hand.
So the last day for faculty will be June 6th?
It is June 6th. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it'll be a half day, I'm assuming. And you said summer school's already
Okay, let me correct that. No.
There's a difference between
Yes.
last day for students and last day for employees.
Right.
For staff.
Sorry.
So June 5th is the half day in 2024 for students. That's the last day of school.
But
And the last day for staff, Dr. Stratos?
Last day for staff is June 6th.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have a concern, just that, I don't think I hope it goes well this year, is I guess what I'm saying. You know, I don't have the feedback from that to know if it's something I should really argue against, but I do hesitate that, you know, I'm going to hear from people. I guarantee I'm going to hear from people that 2 years in a row, if the Hilton Head's graduation is poorly attended because it's at the end and school's out.
So if you go back to the graduation dates, please, thank you, Mrs. Cushenberry. So Hilton Head is identified for graduation on June 6th.
Right.
And you go back to the calendar, please. That is still a contact day for teachers on campus for the proposed calendar right in front of you. The calendar for this year for graduation, the principals have had them for quite some time. They discussed it and they've had discussion with their staff. And from my writing out the calendar options, I shared with Dr. Cox. It goes from myself to the principals. I get feedback back and forth. And my understanding that these were all approved amongst the high school principals for this current academic school year, as well as for the upcoming academic school year. It went from me to myself to Dr. Cox to the high school principals, and the feedback was a yes.
Okay, well, I eagerly await to test your optimistic hypothesis.
I must be with rainbow glasses, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Smith?
Well, just to address to address the last situation, Dr. Strauss, in past practices, haven't we rotate graduations every year? If you're first this year, then you'll be last next year. Is that not the practice that we're doing?
That is a general practice, sir. The answer is that is yes, but as I shared, well, let me just back up for this 2023 graduation calendar. We did have a special need to meet the need for construction at the school. So we did go out of rotation. When we shared for the 2024 graduation dates, they were shared with the principals and they said that it worked for them, sir, especially where we have 2 in 1 day.
And also that's my concern. I was wondering too, why that's not been our normal practices to have 2 graduations in 1 day. I say personally, I'm not a big fan of that, of having 2 graduations in 1 day. Definitely not a fan of that. But yeah, I mean, if it works for the principals, but I don't know about the community. I have a question there. When we normally accustomed to doing 1 graduation a day, doing those 2 is just it's a little concerning for me. But I'll just leave that. Thank you.
I think the challenge for us is if we want to try to accomplish graduations while we still have employees in the building, that's one of the challenges. We're going to have to double up 2 in a day. I mean, or we run out of days, right?
Well,
that's the challenge. So that's all. I mean,
yeah, and I got the challenge out of Rodriguez, but my point of if your building is under construction, then we Valley Creek and other places have been in construction, then we move graduations to different places on those same days, and I think that is what it has been past practices, and I didn't see a problem with finding another venue on that same day to have that graduation on, to go ahead and get those graduations done. That's my point. I'm just sticking to past practices. Would have worked for us. If it's not broke, then don't fix it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stratos.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we need to vote. So all those in favor of the modified calendar change, please say aye. Aye. And go ahead. Wisniewski?
Aye.
Hay?
Aye.
Smith?
No.
Okay, so the calendar is approved, 10-1-0.
Okay. So last but not least, Madam Chair, our future topics, we have 2 of them that we will discuss: right choices and discipline. And our next meeting will be held on April the 20th at 4:30 p.m. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we have the Finance and Operations Committee's reports from Chairman Dick Guyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Committee met on March 25th, or March 15th, excuse me. Ms. Tanya Crosby presented the following reports: the monthly Board of Education budget, the monthly $100,000 report, and the transparency reports. All reports were reviewed and no comments were made. Ms. Denise Mattson presented an executive summary for ESSER funds through February 26, 2023. She provided a breakout of each of the federal programs. The information included the following: program description, total allocation, total expenditures, encumbrances, and the balance. Bottom line, Ms. Mattson states that we are on track for spending every dime of the federal funds before the time runs out. Ms. Crosby gave an oral budget update. She stated that she was waiting on information concerning funding. She's reviewing expenditures. Last year, they met with a student advisory group for input on the budget. They are planning on meeting with the students again in April. Dr. Rodriguez.
This morning, we had
morning.
our meeting with students who provided outstanding input into the budget. Very proud of them, proud of the work that they did. So
outstanding.
Yep.
Outstanding. The April 21st board meeting, the full day board meeting, will have the most up-to-date information on the budget for our purview. Future topics are going to be, we're going to talk about SRO updates and funding. We're going to talk about the Minority Business Enterprise Report, and we're going to have a briefing on the cost benefit analysis of going to having the custodians work for the district rather than work under contract. And we will have that, and we will be looking at that both financially and operationally in the Operations Committee. And that concludes the Finance Committee report.
Okay, Dr. Wisniewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I don't know if this is just a formatting error of my computer, but when I tried to view the ESSER slideshow or PowerPoint, the last column is cut off. Is that present for everybody else, or is that just me?
Last column on the first slide.
It's on the, let me see. Let me get the title here. It's on the actual elementary and secondary school emergency relief ESSER funds update. So I believe it's the third page of the digital document, or it starts on the third page of the digital document. And as you scroll through, I can see total allocation column, total expenditures column, encumbrances column, but I cannot see the final column.
The balance column.
Yes, sir. I don't know
Okay.
if it's just a
It's on
format.
the screen now. Can you see it now?
And it's working on mine as well. It may be a formatting issue on your device.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking it was. I tried to get it to work. So thank you for clarifying. And Robin, if there's any way you could send that to me via email, that would be wonderful. I'd appreciate it.
And also to Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought you said hers wasn't fine.
No, she-
Sorry,
she had-
misunderstood her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We ready to move on? Yep. The Operations Committee meeting minutes from the March 14th meeting, Mr. Rob Corbin provided an executive summary for the March 2023 construction updates, and providing that update tonight. Mr. Corbin, are you there?
I am. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to provide the executive construction update from the March Operation Committee meeting. Long lead times and inflationary cost increases continue to be encountered. On our slides 6 through 8, we have yellow traffic lights for Robert Smalls International Academy. We're continuing to monitor the previously reported switchgear delivery concerns. I am pleased to report that the switchgear has been delivered to the site and is scheduled to be energized this week. This yellow traffic light will be returned to green in next month's report. At May River High School, slide 12, the project manager continues to address and manage potential schedule concerns with the completion of the turf field and the first home football game. And on slide 14, you'll see a yellow light there for Hilton Head Island ECC. The completion of the 100% CDs have been delayed. The project manager for that project is meeting with the team to do a page turn review meeting to expedite the completion of those drawings. And our construction manager, Thompson Turner, has committed to providing the GMP proposal within 2 weeks of receipt of the 100% CDs. And the completion of that work is still scheduled to occur in the fourth quarter of this year. Quick update for St. Helena Elementary School gym renovation, slide 56. Painting of the brick infill area where the exterior building lettering is located was completed in March. The construction of the new gym entry canopy is still scheduled to take place this summer. A couple of updates for our ESSER work. Slide 73, the bipolar ionization projects. A total of 16 locations have been completed and devices have been installed at the remaining 10 locations. And just require the controls to be connected and then tested. For our bottle filler projects on slide 74, installations have been completed at 14 locations. Moving on to report project closeouts for the 8% capital project improvements. FY 2019 has one project that remains open. Under FY 2020, there's 7 projects that remain open. And for the referendum project, slides 76 to 78, there's 16 projects being reported, completed to date. I'll also point out that the 519 financial summary, that was attachment 3 in our materials for tonight, a total of 109 financial commitments, those are the rows shaded in green, have been completed to date. For the financial update on the referendum, slide 80, the financial update is being reported with a green traffic light. Our current referendum budget remains, as previously reported, $375,710,000. Our paid and committed funds through February 28th totaled right at $335.1 million, or just under 90% of the overall total. Paid expenditures through the end of February totaled $206.6 million, representing roughly 55% of the overall total. And the remaining available funds, including contingency, total just over $40.6 million. Contingency activity in February, you'll see there on the screen, included returning money of $711,665 and use of $201,895. Details of those savings and use can be found in the contingency log. And I am pleased to report that our most recent analysis is still indicating that the remaining referendum scopes can be completed with the remaining available project funds. Quick update on some community outreach, slide 87. We did have a lot of activity leading into the March Operation Committee meeting for Hilton Head Island High School. We did put out responses for feedback on the various design elements, and at the time of the Operation Committee, over 1,000 feedback responses had been received, and that number was still increasing. And we've also held discussions with this next project and the vision of the design with the Hilton Head Island High School student government. That took place on February 28th, and the meeting with the Hilton Head Island High School staff took place the morning of March 14th. Last item to report on is request for proposals, that's RFPs, and request for qualifications. The RFP 23012, that's the construction manager for the Hilton Head Island High School project. Responses were received on February 23rd, evaluated, and the proposed selection of MBCon Construction Company was approved by the board at the start of tonight's meeting. And the other one that was on the street at this time was RFQ 23013. That's the architect for a new elementary school at the May River campus. Responses were received on March 29th, and they are being evaluated. This concludes my executive construction update for this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Boatright?
I feel like I'm being a pain. So under the Hilton Head Island High School, item number 3, tell me if I'm reading this incorrectly. The CDs will be received in March of 2023.
Are you talking? Which slide are you looking at?
Ugh, I gotta go back to the slides.
I think I know which
It's the
one
Hilton
you're
Head
talking
Island
about.
High School. It's the new field house, and it says CDs still being worked on will be received in March of 2023.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
and it's
the
April,
report
right?
was at that time. Yes.
Okay, so where are we now? Since we obviously just blew right by that deadline.
The report is being finalized for the end of March, and you would put me on the spot. I don't have that update in front of me. I believe
I went back just for fun. That's why I didn't have the thing because and I didn't have time to go all the way back, but I went back to our November meeting where it said these would be provided December of 2023. Then it was January of 2023. Then it was February 2023, and now we're still in March of 2023. So I'm kind of concerned as to what the issue is.
Well, there has been some concern with getting all of the documents finished up so that we had a complete set. To that avail, we did move forward with an early release package so that the work on the campus could commence. But we are trying to finish up those drawings and receive a GMP proposal from the construction manager so that we can review it and then bring that forward. I will bring additional details to our next operation committee meeting so I can be well prepared to answer all of your questions.
Well,
If
it looks
I-
like Robert's coming up.
Well, if you can't, I think we have discussed, but just to remind you, one of our problems was the architect had a subcontractor, specifically the IT subcontractor. Yes, it had issues, and it's been, I believe they are coming in the next, I want to say, I know, don't even say it, but hopefully by the end of this month, we'll have those bids in.
Thank you, Robert, for tickling my memory.
So we're just going to get the GMPs ostensibly sometime in April of 2023.
Right.
And then is there then the value, the cost engineering value, or is there going to be more of that? I mean, what is realistically when the board will actually approve and realistically when work on this could start?
Well, we haven't seen those numbers. Well, our focus was on the renovation to make sure we met the high school season, and we're in line for that in the upcoming. Now we're looking at trying to get something, we won't make high school, obviously, for fall football. You're not going to make that in the new building. You're looking at probably, that has taken us, it'll probably be the end of next year before that new building's completed. So
Next year being the end of 20.
Yeah, well, the end of the school year in 2024. Yes.
June of 20.
Mm-hmm. We could have it in spring, depending on once they get started. But yes, I don't know the numbers right now. So we don't know how much back and forth we're going to have because we haven't seen those yet.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith, your hand is up.
Yes, ma'am. Also, just to take a page out of one of my colleagues' book. Quick question. For the gym construction, what date did that start?
Ooh, I do not have that in front of me. I'd have to look that up and get back to you, Mr. Smith.
Your educated guess, when would that be?
I'd rather not guess, sir. I'll look that up and get that information back to you.
Okay, because it just seems like it just seems like it's just taking forever for this project to be done with. I mean, we're talking about one building, one structural building in terms of projects. I'm just speaking for my constituents. I'll leave that right there. Thank you.
Okay, moving on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carl.
I'm sorry, Mr. Otting. In listening to what has slowed down the process, I didn't hear a specific pinpointed issue of what was the deliverer supposed to deliver and why did they not deliver it?
The issue for Hilton Head High School was it was our IT consultant. And so they weren't able to complete the IT drawings such as cabling and all the devices in there. So that the project was pretty much on hold till he could get that finished, complete the set of drawings. So then it could be bid out. And that was our problem there.
Can you tell, or did they tell you why they could not finish their commitment to you?
I believe their wife was in the hospital and it was a one-man shop.
So then going forward, having some type of redundancy built into the service provider is a strategic intent, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes, sir. And we have, if you know any other IT consultants, we'll be glad to consider them. We have one other one that we're using at this time, and we would welcome others.
Moving on from that self-inflicted wound, Mr. Otting and Miss Brandy Major presented a presentation on work orders. The presentation defined what is a CMMS. The CMMS stands for Computer Maintenance Management System. And what it does is it is a software program that manages the workflow of a work order and how work orders are entered and what is planned for the future. Miss Major and Mr. Otting shared that the CMMS request for proposal is going out for bid. And the new items they would add to that request for proposal is a vehicle management system, including bus management, a cloud-based system allowing teachers to put in work orders and receive current updates, and merge the IT help desk system with the maintenance work order module. And lastly, asset management to include interactive mapping and QR and barcode scanning, which is definitely needed. So that was some really good news, and we're looking forward in the operations committee to hear more of that. Next item, Mr. Otting came back to the committee with an update on the River Ridge Academy easement. And I'm therefore going to make a motion. And then Mr. Otting will come up and give us a briefing on it during discussion. I move that the Board of Education grant approval of a driveway access easement for University Investments LLC to assess Raider Drive. Do I hear a second?
Second that motion.
And Mr. Otting?
Well, if you would recall, we were here at the last meeting on this and a question came up about the principal and what their opinion was. So we did reach out to Mr. Ryman and he had some additional questions about what the type of building and product. So we had some conversations back with the developer. What they're planning on building is a spec building for like a plumbing shop or with a warehouse in the back and something up front. Of course, Mr. Ryman was concerned about anything that might, have to do with vaping or things of that nature. And that's not the intent. This is more of a paint shop, plumbing shop. That's what it's being designed for. So with that, he was fine with it. And that was the one question that was out there.
Any discussion from the board members? Oh, thank you. Dr. Wisniewski, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Robert and for going to the principal and having that discussion. I think it was very important, and I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
All right, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And you guys, yeah, go ahead, Smith.
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
Wisniewski
Wisniewski, aye.
and Hay, I think was I already. Yeah. Okay, and so any nays? And any abstentions? So the easement passes unanimously.
Next item. Miss Alice Walton and Miss Wendy Cartledge presented the following ARs and discussed with the committee the changes that were made. And Miss Walton will be here to answer any questions, but they're not making a presentation tonight. I'm going to list the ARs that were talked about in committee. HRS-5 staff contract and compensation. HRS-16 staff leave and absences. HRS 18-1 annual leave pay. HRS 31 resignation of professional staff. Are there any questions on any of those HRs? Ms. Walton would be glad to answer.
Yes, madam. Yes, I couldn't get to my hand fast enough. Yes, I do have a question.
Mr. Smith?
And in terms of the last one, that Mr. Geyer read, if Mrs. Walt, basically that's the one that states that that if a teacher leaves, that we can without a reason or cause, that we can basically take their license.
No, it doesn't exactly say that, Mr. Smith. What it states is if a certified staff is resigning, they need to give us a good reason for resigning. So every one of those cases, if they resign after June 1st, we sign contracts on May 11th, they have to come back to us. So we are asking that they give us fair warning that they're not going to come back for the school year, to tell us by June 1st. And if something comes up that they have to get out of that contract, then we asked that we deal with them on an individual basis. So extenuating circumstances like deaths, or they have to move, then that's fine. If there's nothing but I want to go to another district, then we deal with that on an individual basis. And all of those cases will come to you as a board.
And when you say it will come to us as a board, can you tell me what that looked like?
Yes, if there's ever an reason for us to request that the state looks at a teacher's certificate for breach of contract, we would bring it to you to let you know why, what the reasons are, and then you would have to approve taking it to the State Department.
Thank you for that for that information. I just think that that's a slippery slope, but I won't go more into it because we've already had that conversation in depth in the operations committee meeting. I just think there's a slippery slope, but thank you.
And last topic, or future topics, we've asked for a job description of the district athletic director to be presented at the next committee meeting. We asked for a discussion on student discipline. We also asked for the process for receiving and sending students back to their home school for right choices. And lastly, we want to discuss the operational impact of the possible cost-benefit analysis of moving custodians from contract into the schools, into the school district employee. That completes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. All right, next on our agenda tonight is the superintendent's report.
Next, superintendent's report, while Dr. Stratos comes forward to speak about student achievement and update on library opt-out forms. We just want to recognize that this month, April, is, and you've heard it tonight already, but is School Librarians Month. And so we want to recognize our school librarians, and I will turn it over to Dr. Stratos for the update on the opt-out form.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez, and good evening, Madam Chair and board members. Board members, you have two items. One is actually a flow chart that we'll bring up. Figured with the opportunity of having an executive summary, a one-pager for you, and you'll also have a presentation. Prior to going forward, I just want to share narrative information. So this evening, I want to provide an update on an earlier task that the Instructional Services Division was charged with. The updating of our school district library opt-out form. As I go forward with this presentation, I ask that we keep three items under consideration. First, this presentation focuses on opt-out of library materials that provides a personalized model for parents as their students navigate their school library experience. This option also allows for parents to provide their schools with a list of book titles and/or authors of which they are choosing to have their child or student not read. I also want to share that upon reviewing districts and parent voice, the opt-out model is providing a much more personalized experience. Secondly, on average, there are 11,000 book titles at our elementary schools, 9,000 at our middle, and 20,000 at our high schools. I share these numbers as an indicator for each of us to understand the depth of the work that a school librarian manages, particularly if a school librarian is new to a school or position. The opt-out lens for staff to be successful at honoring a parent or legal guardian's preferences. The final item for your consideration is the choice to not provide an opt-out by genre, which could result in misunderstanding and/or misinterpretation, since determining the theme of a work is a subjective endeavor. An underlying result from numerous conversations on this topic brought forward the reality that different librarians, readers, or parents may draw hugely different conclusions about whether or not a book fits into a particular category. For example, if a family prefers to opt a student out of violent books, there are many follow-up questions that may warrant consideration. How much violence needs to be present in a book to make it the primary theme? A certain number of pages or passages? What about nonfiction books? What about books about World War II, 9/11 memories, or military history? Well, let's look at what about superheroes? Does fighting crime for good count as violent? If so, it places a different lens upon Marvel and DC Comics. Those of you who are familiar with Batman, Superman, Iron Man, and Wonder Woman are familiar with their journey. So to summarize, there are three options to personalize a family's library experience. If we can go forward, please. I'll share with you first. Option one, do not allow my child to check out. Yes, sir. I will bring that forward, sir. On the form, there are three options. Option one, do not allow my child to check out any school library materials from school libraries without my approval of a specific library materials. Option two, do not allow my child to check out specific school library materials. Or option three, do not allow my child to check out any materials from the school libraries. And I'll share with you, as Dr. Rodriguez also has pointed out, there's technically four. You don't opt out. You just go into the library and enjoy what's available. So if we can go back, and once again, to the flow chart, Mrs. Cushenberry, if possible, thank you. And I just wanted to provide you a visual. If we start at the first row, principal is notified via email. The opt-out forms are going to be tied to registration. At registration or through the Administrative Regulation 38.1, there's a hyperlink that will take you right to an opt-out page on our school website where you can go right into the form. The form is going to be an electronic form. In the past, it was paper and pencil and completing. We've designed it to be a jot form. There's an advantage of that allows us to monitor, also run reports. So it goes from the principal, parent, legal guardian has completed the form, and librarians are now also informed. The principal will send a text, or they can send it to be a designee, who could be the librarian, to, hey, we are in receipt of your form. The librarian will also then contact they have access to all student schedules. They can contact the students' teachers with regard to the options that a parent has selected. The opt-out must be completed annually, just as we have our students register annually. A parent is, if they want to have their child opting out, they will complete that annually at the same point of registration. Or they could also make notification to the principal, I changed my mind, let Mary read green eggs and ham. You also have the option that during the school year, I didn't opt out. We can opt out by going to the regulation ISAR 38.1. So Mrs. Cushenberry, if you can go to the presentation. If we can go back, I just want to do a quick to the first slide. Thank you. One more that should have the form. Thank you, ma'am. If you see on the right side, that is the updated as a JOT form, the parent just completes it. We will have routing mechanisms in there as you identify the school for your child to which principal this form must be sent to. So that is all handled internally. We will keep communication with human resources regarding updates to our schools, right? Because that happens as well. So we're conscious of the manual part that we have to do in the back side of this form. Next slide, please. As I shared with you in option 1, do not allow my child to check out any library materials from school libraries without my approval. These materials will be a hold. But the hold only means that Mary is waiting for someone to give a green light, that is my parent or guardian, within 5 days. However, that material will still be able to circulate. So if mom waits to day 5, I'm going to have to now wait, if there's only one copy of the material, for me to be able to take that title out when that book is reshelved. Next option. Thank you. Do not allow my child to check out specific school library materials. This allows a personalized model. I may have just 2 authors I don't want my child to touch. You can update this file, this form allows you to update your list. It allows you to update any appropriate information so that a librarian can work with. The other recommendation we're putting forward is that the librarian keep some type of file nearby at the checkout. Always a reminder, so we know we would have this information in Destiny, which is the state's standard software that we utilize for checking out, but also to have the forms by every now and then. It's always a trigger. Let me check. Next form. Do not allow my child to take out any materials. That is for school library. Again, we're talking about AR 38.1, books within our libraries. That is a quick synopsis on the update, board members.
With respect to option 1, what option 1 does, as Dr. Stratos mentioned earlier, it personalizes the library experience for the parent and the family, right? If your child wants to check out a book, and you want to think about what that book is, and you want to look at it and you want to review it, you can review it with whatever source you personally want to review it for your child. You want to look at booklooks.org? Look at booklooks.org. You want to look at Common Sense Media? Look at Common Sense Media. You want to use Follett? Use Follett. And those different options provide you information and, somewhat of a description and a personalized experience with respect to what you feel is right for you and what you feel is right for your child.
That ends my presentation, Dr. Watts. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yeah, Ms. Boatwright?
I have to go first. My hand up there.
I think your hand went up fast.
It did. I have some,
And then Dr. Wisniewski's after you.
So first of all, thank you, Dr. Stratos and Dr. Rodriguez. The board tasked you with something that, in my opinion, is moderately unachievable. I think this is a good effort at doing what the board asked you to do. This will be my 3rd time speaking out about the opt-out form. And I know I'm probably going to be in the minority. I may be alone, but I'm okay with that, Because I think we're going to face these kind of issues again in the next year or two. This book banning is not, we're going to face other books. We're going to face other ideas. We're going to face other challenges. You can see it happening across the country. We can see what's coming. So of my takeaways from this, I have two things that I think it's really important that the board consider going forward. So this is not about the current process. The only option that I would support on this is number 3. Either do the library or you don't do the library. If you don't trust your child, or you don't have, a sense of trust in the school that they've selected appropriate books and whatever, you maybe have religious objections, that's your business. It's optional. It's not instructional. And that's a big distinction. The board doesn't actually intervene in library materials. So the library is there as an option. And I think if families say, I don't wish to have that option, fine. This personalized experience thing, I think, is opening the door to a lot of problems for us. And I brought this up at the committee meeting. And there's 2 principles I think that I would like to point out going forward as we deal with these types of issues in the near future. One is this was a reactionary decision to ask for this opt-out form. And the reason it was reactionary is because we were responding to, a lot of comments and concerns, and the concerns are valid, but we were trying to okay, let's fix this. The thing is, there is data now. Florida has been very aggressive about bringing in opt-out forms. And there's actually groups out there that have FOIA'd and compiled the data from this process, and it is extremely low participation rate. In Tampa Bay, they had 100,000 students, 43 students used the opt-out forms. And so there were no districts that had more than half of 1% participation in these opt-out forms. So that's a very small effect size. And of those 0.5% of students, if you were to do a statistical analysis and look at what the odds were those students were going to check a library about without the opt-out form, I think we're basically getting asymptotically close to 0 effect for these opt-out forms. So then we get to the second concern that I have. I think, one, before we make these kind of decisions and we direct the superintendent or we take on something, we need to say, is there already data out there that we can look at and inform our decisions? Because that data does exist. And we may come after looking at the data, decide we still want to do it, but I think we should take a pause and look at that data. Number 2, I hear a lot nowadays, doing something, this is better than nothing, right? I've heard that for 3 years. I've heard that with a lot of COVID interventions. I've heard it with a lot of political things. Well, it's better than nothing. And that is just not true. In medicine, you say the cure sometimes is worse than disease. And I would say often the cure is worse than the disease. These are not benign interventions. And my problem is this, and this is something that really bothers me. We are, and it's not a political issue because both sides of the political spectrum are participating in it, but we have a mental health crisis of kids. And they're coming out of our public education system nationwide ill-prepared for what's facing them in college. And so I'm going to give 2 examples. One, Stanford Law School recently hosted a conservative federal circuit judge, the Federal Society, and this is a sitting judge. And this judge had some controversial conservative opinions. He was heckled and shut down, which was a problem because these are Stanford law students. They didn't ask him about case law. They didn't challenge him. They didn't do what our students have done, which is bring up really rational, cogent, historical, and researched arguments. They just shouted him down until he finally had to ask an administrator to intervene. And the administrator got up and read a 10-page prepared speech that basically told the judge that the juice was not worth the squeeze. His opinions were causing so much harm to these bright, intellectual, law-aspiring scholars that really we shouldn't even say it. And that is concerning to me on one hand. On the other hand, you got what happened in Florida, where basically a 6th grade parent said that the statue of David was pornographic. Michelangelo in a class on Renaissance art. Neither of these things are preparing our kids for the reality. So my thing is, with this opt-out form, what we are telling parents with this personalized library experience is that somehow you can protect your kid from ideas that might scare them or challenge them or upset you. And I think that is a really dangerous path that we're starting down on this, to say to parents, well, you can come into the public school system, but you can tell the public school system what you're going to learn, how you're going to learn it, when you're going to learn it. And it opens up, I think, all kinds of problems like the violence issue. What constitutes violence? Or what happens when we have an 18-year-old kid who wants to check out Kite Runner? Can his parents forbid him? At 18 years old, 16 in South Carolina is the state of consent. You can legally get married without your parents' consent. But apparently, based on this form, you cannot read a book that contains sexual imagery. So I think that we have to think about, even though this will probably not be used by many people, it is starting a process that I think that this board really needs to consider is, do we want to have a situation where we have parents should have say in their kids' education? Absolutely. But in something like the library, are we going to create these complex flow sheet systems to try and prevent, I would argue, futilely, their kids from encountering these kinds of books that our school system has selected, as you heard from the libraries, through a pretty rigorous process. So those are my two things. I think one, before we make these kind of decisions, we should look and see if data exists that we can look at to see if they've worked, if they've been useful. And number two, we need to really think about having kids, we're taking agency away from the students. And I've been so impressed with our students. We should let them make some of these decisions as well and have some say. We're taking that agency away. And I think that's showing up later in life, where kids now are coming out and they're thinking that they should never be exposed to an idea that causes harm because the juice is not worth the squeeze. So I would say that I think, in my opinion, I'm a huge free speech advocate. And I do think the juice is worth the squeeze. So then I'll get off my soapbox. I'm done. You won't hear from me again about it.
All right, Dr. Wisniewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Ms. Boatwright, that was a lot to unpack, and I won't even try to go, tit for tat with you on that one. I'm simply going to say that Dr. Stratos and your staff, I greatly appreciate you for going to task on this. I think that what you've put forward here does assist parents in making those personalized decisions that only a parent is responsible for. I am the only person, along with their father, who is responsible for my children. Their agency is under my purview. And so I know that I'm not alone in that viewpoint with other parents in our school district. And while the data may be low in other school districts for people that have engaged in opt-out forms, I think that without knowing what those opt-out forms looked like, it could be an apples to oranges comparison. So I thank you, Dr. Stratos, for going to task on this. I think that this is a good solution. It does provide the parents with the ability to have that authority over their students' education. I'm a believer that personalized education is beneficial because all students are different. They come from various backgrounds, and it's not beneficial to restrict minority viewpoints anywhere. So, so long as we are doing our job as being inclusive to everyone, regardless of viewpoints, and allowing the parents to make those choices, I commend you for these options to parents. The only thing that I'll make note of is on the part where the parents are notified via an email. I would just make a offhanded suggestion that sometimes those emails don't make it to inboxes due to spam filters and things like that. So perhaps there may be a paper form that's handed to the student to take home to tell their parents, check your email, or I went to the library today and I tried to do this. I know I'm not alone amongst other parents who sometimes don't get the communications. So again, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And you're always professional. So kudos. Thank you.
All right, Earl.
Thank you. We asked the administration to come back with something. They came back with it. Let me say this, no matter what we do, this is not going to change folks from complaining and whining. You have to understand, and maybe nobody else but me does this, but this goes further back than the book Abandoned. These folks want to destroy public education, period. That's their aim, period. And this didn't start yesterday. It started a couple of years ago. Education has become so politicized now until it's not focused on educating children. If I don't get my way, this is what I'm going to do. I'll sue you, whatever. I'll attack you, whether it's physically or whatever. So, you know, I don't let stuff like this bother me. When I leave this meeting, then I'm going home and go to sleep. I leave all this right here in this room, you know, and that's what I've done since I've been on this board. I don't take this stuff home with me. You know, if people send me emails, I respond to them. But you cannot worry about what is going to happen because this is not going to stop. You know, so as board members, we have to remember we have a job. We educate children. All that other stuff is throw it in the trash can. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, just
Yeah,
respond.
actually, I think Dr. R actually
Yes,
wanted to.
that
He's
is,
waiting
yes.
in the queue. So, and then I'll.
Yes, ma'am.
you
Yes, ma'am.
I just, I think, you know, from our end, we can close it out with this, and unless there's more that you all want to talk about, but there's a request of the staff to go back and look at what we have and to come back with a review and maybe an option or what have you. So that's what our team did. We've come back with that. I think we have fulfilled the request from the board. And, you know, if there's another direction, you know, you'll let us know. If you want to stay with the current opt-out form, you'll let us know. If you like this, you'll let us know. That's all.
All right, Dr. Stratos and then Mr. Nay.
I just wanted to bring forward, as Dr. Wisniewski made mention, and actually Mr. Nate at our academic committee, will be utilizing text messages as well through Bright Arrow. So it'll be email and text message. And I did leave that out. So I appreciate the opportunity to share that.
Dang it. Also, I would like to note that, unless I misunderstood this, also includes classroom materials, not just library. So what about the library material that are in classrooms, books that are in classrooms?
So the classroom library is separate from the librarian. That is where we want our principals to be aligned to 1.93. And that is also proviso right now is being reviewed. It made it through the legislation. It will make it, it's in front of the Senate. So we are asking that we stay in alignment with 1.93. That is outside of the administrative regulation, complete on the challenge, but that information being shared from the librarian to the classroom teacher. Again, I don't want Mary to read green eggs and ham. That classroom teacher will be informed as well.
Right. And I think that's what I was getting at. So
Yes, sir.
that there's some classroom involvement.
Yes, sir.
Maybe
Yes,
not
sir.
by direct policy, but there's classroom involvement, which should be happening, you know, communicating, trying to compromise and all this kind of stuff. And then the fact that it gives the parents gives parents options. And then I think, yeah, maybe we're not gonna make everybody happy. But I think making a statement like that dismisses us from the option of trying to offend the least amount of people. And I think that's what we're trying to do in compromise. When we're trying to compromise as a community, what offends the least amount of people? How can we meet in the middle somewhere on this? And I think this is a definitely good step in a good direction to try to offend the least amount of people. Thank you.
So I would just make a comment or two is, so I haven't made very many motions, but this is actually an amendment to a motion I did make about, you know, we directed you, the board as a whole directed you to take a look at the opt-out form and update it if you felt that was appropriate. And with your staff, I think you've done exactly what we've asked you to do. And I think that if board members are not satisfied with the outcome, this product, then a motion needs to be made that you know, to not use this new form. I think, you know, we can belabor this, beat it to death. I mean, yeah, it's, you know, not everything's perfect. It's as good as can be done, and trying to meet everyone's needs and yeah, maybe only 10 people will use the form, or maybe, you know, 500 people, or we don't really know. I think this is just fine, and we need to move on to other things. So, yeah, he must have taken it down.
Chair,
Yes,
I
Mr.
would like to
Campbell.
make a motion that we extend the meeting so we can.
Oh,
complete
thank
what we
you.
have tonight.
All right, anybody second that? Okay. So, the motion that will take precedence right now would be, I guess we should probably, since nobody's hand is up, let's just vote. So there's no motion right now on the table about the opt-out form. Okay, and nobody's hand is up. So now we can move on to what,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
yes, thank you.
ma'am.
Mr. Campbell just made the motion to extend the meeting, and Ms. Middleton second that. So all in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Any nays? I mean, any abstentions? It's getting late. I had a long day. All right, so I think, Mr. Smith, your vote, please.
I'm in favor of it.
Okay, and Dr. Wisniewski?
Wisniewski, aye.
Okay, so we're extending the meeting unanimously. All right, so now we need to go to the second public comments because it's 9. Okay, we have 1.
But I know today in the a little in
All right, that's a second public comment submission. So next up are our board business action items, and I'll turn it over to Secretary Angela Middleton.
Madam Chair, we have several motions under board business. Madam Chair, I move that we accept the donation from the South Carolina Department of Commerce in the amount of $6,000 for supplies for MedTech 7 STEM summer camps.
Seconded.
All right. I think Ms. Gordon was the second. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Wisniewski,
And let's
aye.
see, Wisniewski and Hay?
Aye.
Okay, so the donation is accepted unanimously. Would you like to say anything about that?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you all. Thank you, South Carolina Department of Commerce, for that donation. We greatly appreciate it. We love our summer camps here in Beaufort County, and we will use that money well.
All right, and I think I just misspoke because we did have one member, Colonel Geyer, who was absent from the vote, but it was still unanimous. Okay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to accept OE 6.9 through OE 6.17 debt presentation.
Okay, Mr. Carlton Dallas, second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Wisniewski, aye.
Hay.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
All right, thank you. That carries unanimously.
Madam Chair, I move to accept donation from Big Green Booster Club for golf cart XRT 1550 SNRX 223431771, valued in the amount of $15,500 for Beaufort High School's athletic director and trainer for on-campus transport of gear and injured players.
Seconded.
All right, second was by Earl Campbell. All right. I think we left off 17 in the, I don't know if that's the serial number or what that is, but we'll add that 7. Okay. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Wisniewski, aye.
Aye. Yeah, and Smith said aye. You would say a few things?
And we would like to thank Big Green Booster Club for this golf cart. It will be very useful to the Beaufort High School students and staff. Okay, Madam Chair, I move that the Beaufort County School District approve the submission of the seat time waiver to the South Carolina Department of Education.
Okay, Ms. Gordon, second. Yes. So would somebody?
We need some discussion
Staff,
on this.
yeah, we need somebody from staff explain it, please. Yeah,
It's based on the district's strategic.
it's part of it.
It is part of it. So Madam Chair, just to recognize, within the strategic plan, we have one waiver that is a 5-year waiver that's already embedded. That is for when students have already started a course for credit, high school credit, and they have not passed a course. They're able to demonstrate proficiency through software that we have is called Edgenuity. One of the wonderful things that I am going to tout the work of this district. With the utilization of Edgenuity, this district has actually created units of study where so if a student needs to sit for a whole course, or maybe I miss some 3 weeks subject to medical, we have that designed in predominant amount of our courses. This is way ahead of many, many districts. The waiver that Mrs. McKenzie is going to bring forward is different. It is for students who have not sat in a course. It is a proficiency waiver. It will be tied with our strategic plan, and I'd like her to continue speaking at this time. Mrs. McKenzie.
Thank you, Dr. Stratus. Thank you. So this proficiency waiver is a little bit different. It is a waiver for that 120-hour seat time. That falls under 43-234 of the state regulations. And what the state says to us is you have the possibility to get this waiver if it is interfering with different components of your district strategic plan. This actually does have interferences with our district strategic plan under student achievement goal. The 120 hours of instruction is required for 1 full credit. 60 hours is required for a half credit. It also interferes with the 8% subgroup performance goal that we have under 1.2 and the end of course exams in Algebra 1, Biology, English 2, and U.S. History. The final component is the 1.5 student achievement goal. There's an interference there on the 91% graduation rate. The final one is 5% annually increase on postgraduate college and career readiness goal. So how does all that align with us asking for a waiver? When you think about extenuating circumstances of a student coming in, whether if it's from another country or in a bad situation wherever they came from, they might have math 1, math 2 listed on a transcript. We can't evaluate what that is. What we could do with this waiver is provide that student with, say, the Algebra 1 pre-assessment. If they made an 80% or higher, we would allow them to take the EOC and move on with their education. So we're not stopping that rigor and having a kid sitting through a class that they've really already taken. So we will push this forward on your approval. It will become a part of the district strategic plan, and it will have to be updated with the strategic plan next year.
Victor.
Why did we choose to go with Edgenuity?
Edgenuity is one that the state really has provided, and most districts are utilizing Edgenuity. The great thing about Edgenuity for us is it is standards aligned to South Carolina standards. We use it for credit recovery now during our summer school program and within the school year.
And doing the pre-read material, I looked up Edgenuity and some of the other ones that were listed in there. And it just looked like Edgenuity was not a good program to use. It like 2.5 stars out of 5, two stars out of 5. Am I to understand that there's an option to to personalize it for what we need it for? I mean, how is?
Yes, sir. And we have personalized that. We got together under our ed tech director and we went through every single course and personalized them for credit recovery options. The other great thing that it does is students can take that pre-assessment early and we can personalize for what that individual student needs. That's a real benefit of Edgenuity for us.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So I have a question. This is probably because I'm not an educator. So you gave us an example of how it would be helpful for like a student coming from a different district or country or whatever with, math just labeled 1, 2, whatever. So would this also be used for students, let's say gifted and talented in our district? For example, let's say a student wants to do AP statistics and it's independently and it's not being offered in the district. So they would be able to study that topic, but not have to report, well, it took me, keep track of time, or no, it's not for that. Okay.
You went to a place that it has the opportunity of this waiver. But let me add to that. Advanced placement also allows for a student to sit with it for an exam without going through the course.
Right.
So should they earn a 3 or higher, they may earn the grade as well as a college credit recognition. So that's what, for many of us who may have been around for what we call CLEP the course.
Okay.
So, but we're trying to look with this is to also give the opportunity. Let's go back to the first example, someone coming in without a transcript. They're going to have to demonstrate proficiency. We identified proficiency to be at 80% or higher, an A or a B.
Okay.
But let's say I'm a student at a school, and again, mitigating circumstances. I had to leave Beaufort area for a while because something happened. I had to go help my grandmother, whatever it may. That seat time component that sometimes our students are sitting on a Saturday. This waiver will allow us, if Mary's demonstrating that proficiency at a B or higher, I must demonstrate that proficiency. And we have to work that part more in an administrative regulation, but we're seeing that we have students for seat time not having opportunity to go forward. With that, you have students, they're not showing up. Now what happens? So we want to provide opportunity, and it was a keyword earlier today, agency, but students should have agency of their grades. They should have an option by which to demonstrate proficiency in courses that's not just tied for the amount of time that we are in a seat. I was going to say gluteus maximus, but I'm holding back.
I would understand that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. But we want to provide some options for our students, ma'am. I have to share that. But again, the use of it in that area must now go as well with administrative regulations to be tied in our grading admin reg. The main purpose, as Ms. McKinsey put forward, students, you have students right now coming up from the Ukraine, no transcripts. We have students coming up from other parts in the world, no transcripts. The example of Algebra 1 was a very good example because she shared how the students still must sit for that EOC that is 20% of their grade. But we also, go ahead, ma'am.
So is there any disadvantage to this? That's what I was trying to think of. I mean, I can't think of.
How candid would you like me to be at this time, ma'am?
Very.
It could be the disadvantage of the educator who's like, you're not in my class for 120 hours. That is going to be a shift for us as a system. And that's why we have to work with our principals for the unfolding of that outside of the transcript, the student coming in without a transcript. So I want to be cautious with it, but we want to be also able to provide some opportunities for students that we're finding, like I will say we have 3 students we're finding they need these options. I'm sorry.
Anybody else? No hands up. All right. So we need, can you display? Yeah, here we go.
Thank you, Mrs. Wiggins.
So the motion is that the Beaufort County District approve the submission of the seat time waiver to the South Carolina Department of Education. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Smith? Hay?
Hey, I.
Wisniewski?
Wisniewski, aye.
Smith?
Smith, aye.
Okay,
Aye.
that was approved unanimously then.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move that the Beaufort County School District approve the annual review of the district's strategic plans and school renewal plans.
Do we have a second? All right, Mr. Earl Campbell? You want to give a little summary?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just waiting for the invitation, ma'am. With that, I do want to bring forward Nicholas Flowers, who has been working with our schools to assure first that we're aligned with the law for school renewal plans, as well as the law regarding district strategic plans. Please note, this is the sunset of our current plan. We'll be working the next year. That's why Ms. McKinsey said the waiver you just update, all approved unanimously. We'll have to come back folded into our next district strategic plan because they're a 5-year cycle. So with that, I bring forward Mr. Flowers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So in summary, the strategic plan, we are in the process of wrapping up the 5-year cycle. So this is to do the annual acceptance because in the state of South Carolina, we must submit our plans by April 30th. That's the deadline. So we are writing for a plan that we still do not have the data for on the current plan because we are relying on the results of SC Ready, end of course assessments, the graduation rate, within our student achievement aspect of it. Within the school climate goal, we're waiting for the results of our school climate survey, which the window closes next week. So we do not have any results from there for this school year. Then looking at gifted and talented, we're still waiting for assessment results from gifted and talented identification processes. All the way down to teacher and administrator quality. We are needing to finish out the year to calculate all of our final induction and retention calculations that go in there. We put preliminary where we're looking at, but knowing that we will have to make revisions to this because of the time of year that we're currently in. And then each school, you have the summary that the schools have built for their plans to be able to move those forward also so they can get their plans submitted in alignment with ours. Their goals have to be aligned to district goals. So they're in the same boat we are of needing this year's data to be able to close out this year, report on that and to move forward. So
do we have any questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Boatright.
Okay, this would have benefited from an executive summary because I had no idea what I was looking at. And I know, so basically what you're saying, because I know that the SICs put a fair amount of work in on the school renewal plans, and I didn't really look at it because I didn't know what we were doing tonight. So basically what we're voting because you're sunsetting it, we're approving it and getting.
It's the annual review for us to be able to make the submission to the State Department. So they have the template. So we have to do there's a summary for each of the sections of the plan. So in order for us to make the submission, we have, so the full document looks at all the specific activities and all components that we would do. So what you have is that summary of whittling it down to where we're targeting in on. What is
the motion exactly? I'm confused. I'm a little confused as to what this does.
Can you display it?
If I'm the only
Robin?
one confused, I'll just abstain and
it would be the next one.
Am I?
Or Angela, just read it again.
Oh, no, I need to approve.
I move that the Beaufort County School District approve the annual review of the district's strategic plans and school renewal plans.
So we're not approving the plans, we're approving you to review them.
Yes. Yeah. So you approve the original 5-year, the 5-year goals are still in play. And so traditionally we come back in the fall and make the reports to you over, this is what the data shows. This is how we met our goals once we have that. So in order for us to make the submission to the state, we have to bring you.
State of South Carolina requires that we approve You
Our
guys were
review.
Reviewing it.
Our
Yeah.
review, right.
By
That's
April
basically, I'm
30th.
telling you, we reviewed it and.
And I approve.
And then you're approving that.
I feel
we
very important right now.
have reviewed and we
All
told
these
you.
years of campaigning and meetings. Okay, just want to make sure I was lost.
Victor.
You said this approval is due to the state by April 30th, but you're waiting on data that's not going to come until after April 30th?
Correct. So think of it as a living document. So basically they want to make sure that we are doing our continuous improvement cycle. And so
In Florida, we call them school improvement plans. Here, they're school renewal plans, right? And they are living documents. You can make adjustments to your school improvement plan in Florida. You can make adjustments based on. So we're going to get some data, right? And once the assessments are complete, the state provides data, and then the data is unembargoed. And then we can do something publicly with the data, right? So then we have to make adjustments to our school renewal plan, right? And you would make adjustments based on what the data is telling.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I'm saying. Bring it on.
All right, Carlton.
Just in the cycle, does the board get a chance to really do a sort of like a work session on the strategy? You're coming to the 5-year. So where are we in that 5 years?
You have to approve the work.
We're in the end of the 5 year. Next year, we will be going through the process of building the next 5 year strategic plan. And yes,
if we approve
to that court. That's right. After it's been reviewed.
I think they're getting giggly.
they are.
Madam
right.
Chair, may I just?
Go ahead. Yes.
Just in the document that you have, the team has put it together in sections. Section 1 is a district strategic plan review. It gives a summary, the executive summary. Section 2 is the waiver. Section 3 will be an executive summary of each school's school renewal plan. So, Mr. Dallas, the answer is yes. You just said what we would want wholeheartedly during the upcoming academic school year is to have workshop with the board, going into depth and going deeper. So thank you.
All right.
approve the
I
review.
think we're ready to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hey, aye.
Government.
Thank you. All right, it's approved unanimously. All right, next up. Yes, yes.
Madam Chair, I would like to move that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
Ooh.
I beat you.
Who beat? Who?
It was me. It was all me.
It was all you. Okay, we'll give it to you, Ingrid. You're always first.
Was pushing up.
That's right. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Wisniewski, aye.
Hey, aye.
Smith? All right, he's not present. So, and I
Actually, I
don't
said
think we're-
aye.
Okay,
Said
any
aye.
nays? Thank you. No, okay, so the consent agenda is approved unanimously. Now we're to the future agenda topics. Ms. Boatright first.
Sorry, I'm waiting. Yeah, I would like to have a little bit of a breakdown on the ESSER funding related to the community engagement. I know we had like 40,000 on this ESSER engagement and what sites we actually served during the 2022-2023 school year.
Okay. Mr. Dallas.
Excuse me. One of the things that I would hope to be a future agenda item, Madam Chair, is a discussion of how do we project with clarity all the good things that are happening in the school district into the community. Using personal, and I think the superintendent is working on a program, a communication protocol. So I spoke to the Rotary organization this morning and used some of the materials from Ms. Crosby and Mr. Otting. And just share the documents. It's in public knowledge, so just pass it around. People can look through it. but we direct them to some of the summary pages and the reaction is phenomenal. People don't, and I appreciate Colonel Guy for helping me understand that. People don't realize how much the district does and how complex it is. And we have 22,000 of their most precious, right? And I mean, the district is just amazing, you know, the talent. And so to actually forecast that past the walls and past the grounds of the school district so that Joe and Jane citizen can be aware, I think is essential.
Okay, there being no further hands up. Do we have any announcements, Dr. R?
Oh, ma'am, I made the announcement about librarian.
Yep, you already did. That's true. Okay. And we already had our second public comment, so we can now adjourn by unanimous consent. All in favor? Aye. Good night, and thank you to those that have participated this evening very much.